Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I am a dissident.
Don't move. Move.
I'm saying no. Why you hear Palantir, 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 Palantir? It's not going to stop.
Seriously, we need to release the F-scene list.
Church off!
I am not a church boy.
Church off!
They're full-on vampires.
They hate our beef. They hate our beef. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
That
was one of those just in the nick of time things.
Oh, yeah? You just made it? Just made it? You got a hot beverage?
Well, because I usually don't brew up coffee for the afternoon show, but I did today.
Yeah. It's a good day for a hot beverage. It is freezing. That's why I have a jacket.
One of those days.
I have a jacket. I mean, in the office here, it's the heat is not really getting in here that good. I don't know. Got central heating in this apartment, but
are you
must be the
do you
juice.
Run like hot-blooded?
Yeah. What do you mean?
You like hot-blooded? Meaning, like, do you want to open the window in the winter and Amanda wants you to shut it? Kind of.
No. Well, I mean, we both like it kind of cool, but yeah, it is absolutely frigid. I mean, single digits up here.
It's too much, right?
And yeah, for some reason, the heating is not really making its way into all of the rooms as well as it should be. Like the living room and the kitchen are good, but like the bedrooms and the office is cold. So I'm bundled up today, and I got my cold water.
I mean, honestly, I was looking at the weather report yesterday because I usually go to the gym on our days off, and the weather report is like Don't go outside if you don't have to. If you get dizzy, then call this. Dude, it's fucking winter. It gets cold. Jesus Christ. They make it sound like a new ice. It's cold. What?
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was that cold.
Panic everybody like, oh my God, if I go outside, I'm going to pass out and die. Like,
I didn't know you could get dizzy from the cold. I didn't get dizzy from
yeah,
heat.
hypothermia. Yeah.
That makes you dizzy? I didn't know it makes you dizzy.
Yes.
Yeah, you learn something new every day.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you could only get dizzy from the
Fucking
heat.
suck it up, Buttercup. Jesus Christ. It's called winter in the Northeast. Shut the fuck up.
Well,
Stop scaring people.
I thought it was like something like in the 20s in New York City the other day.
It was
where it was.
It was yesterday. It was in the 20s, and I went to the fucking gym. It was no big deal.
Yeah.
Unless you have a health problem or you're elderly, like they're scaring the crap out of people because it's cold. You know what? You know what that was yesterday? That was normal New York weather for the entire winter when I was growing up.
Right. Yeah, no, up here was like 7 degrees this morning, and now it's warmed up to almost 20. So that's nice. So it's getting balmy. Hey, everybody, please smash that like button to work the algo today. Got a great crowd in here to start things off. 883 in the YouTube chat. 307 over on Rumble. Appreciate you being here. Please do smash that like button. It is super helpful in the day shows, especially. And let's get into some news. Let's get it started in Ukraine. We haven't talked about Ukraine in a while.
No, we have not. And this is the story that a lot of us have seen coming. So look at that fresh-faced, young, corrupt leader. This is before the war. Pandora Papers. Ukraine leader. See, nobody knew who Zelensky was back then. Ukraine leader seeks to justify offshore accounts. This article was back in 2021. Files obtained by the ICIJ claim Volodymyr Zelensky and his partners established a network of offshore companies in 2012. Now, you'll notice the source I used was Al Jazeera. Not that there's anything wrong with Al Jazeera, but whenever you're really trying to make this case that libs are going to be very resistant to, you want to steelman it by using, one of the things they really love, like the New York Times. So this was a very bad week for the libs, needless to say. But I couldn't really find American news that covered this. Not to say there was none, but it wasn't easy to find. And you might remember Cy Hirsch. This was back in 2023. Zelensky embezzled $400 million from U.S. taxpayer money. No mainstream press coverage. A lot of derisive coverage of it overseas. Oh, this is fake. Where's his proof? But boom. The gray lady finally caught up to Seymour Hersh a couple years later. Glenn Greenwald. In the least surprising revelation ever, the New York Times, which has vocally and vehemently championed Zelensky and U.S. financing of the war in Ukraine, documents how Zelensky and his top aides facilitated the stealing of billions in aid. Who could have seen that coming? There were no signs out there that something like this might be happening in the most corrupt country in Europe. Who knew? All right, so this news report is pretty funny, not only in that the anchors are just absolutely shocked by what they're covering and clearly haven't figured out what they're supposed to do to manage the narrative here. And it's also kind of like the arrest scene in Goodfellas. It's, everybody getting dragged out of the warehouses with the hot merchandise being hauled off in handcuffs.
To bring you coming to us from out of Ukraine. Now, you will know that there has been a corruption scandal engulfing that man's administration, President Volodymyr Zelensky. In the last few minutes, officials have reported that the anti-corruption authorities, that is NABU, have carried out searches of President Zelensky's offices. That's according to officials there.
Well, yes, and as we're saying, Ukraine has been caught up in this damaging corruption scandal.
Whoever sold you that suit had a wonderful sense of humor.
Have been talking about how they believe that some of President Zelensky's close associates could be involved in some kind of plot. The thought is that perhaps money has been skimmed off Ukraine's energy sector. This scandal erupting, of course, while Ukrainians are suffering blackouts caused by Russian bombing. So that investigation is underway. So this latest development is that officials are now saying that those anti-corruption authorities are conducting searches of President Zelensky's chief of staff.
Yeah, it centres around that energy company, Energoatom, and the main focus of this is one of President Zelensky's key allies, a man called Timur Mindich, who is accused of being involved in this scandal. He has fled Ukraine. He fled a couple of weeks ago. The authorities there want to speak to him, of course. But as we see from this latest line of reporting, these searches now right at the heart of the Kyiv administration in Zelensky's office. This has now come very, very close to the president. We'll get more details, of course, on this throughout the day here on Sky News.
Hello, Bukele. Where do you get suit? I love suit. I love suit. I want suit like you suit. He's wonderful.
I have
Maybe
Oscar
President
from Sean
Trump,
Penn.
don't yell at me next time.
I have Oscar from Sean Penn. I traded to you for flat screen TV. I need one I can mount on the wall.
You have the bracket. I can
The
never
bracket?
put
I
on.
need the
I can
bracket.
never put on.
I'll give you half the Oscar for bracket for flat screen TV.
Zelensky's government sabotaged oversight, allowing corruption to fester. This is the New York Times. This is not the Fuentes Dispatch here. This is the New York Times. Over the past 4 years, a New York Times investigation found the Ukrainian government systematically sabotaged that oversight, allowing graft to flourish. President Volodymyr Zelensky's administration has stacked boards with loyalists, left seats empty, or stalled them from being set up at all. Leaders in Kyiv even rewrote company charters to limit oversight, allowing hundreds of millions of dollars to be spent without outsiders poking around. Anti-corruption authorities have accused members of his inner circle of siphoning off and laundering $100 million from the state-owned nuclear power company Energoatom. Mr. Zelensky's administration has blamed Energoatom's supervisory board for failing to stop the corruption, but it was Mr. Zelensky's government itself that neutered Energoatom's supervisory board, the Times found. Political interference not only at Energoatom, but also at Ukrenergo and Ukraine's Defense Procurement Agency. Even as Ukraine undermined outside oversight, European money kept flowing. We do care about good governance, but we have to accept that risk, said Christian Seiss, the special envoy to Ukraine from Norway and one of Kyiv's top donors, because it's war. Oh, well, okay then. Contractors on Energoatom projects had to pay kickbacks of up to 15%. After Russia's 2022 invasion, Zelensky relaxed anti-corruption rules and worked with political and business figures whom he had once declared to be criminals. The Energoatom scandal weakened his case for Ukraine to join the European Union and NATO. There will be more hesitation to dedicate big funding, said Arvid Turkner, managing director for Ukraine at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and one of Kyiv's largest financial backers. In late 2021, Herman Halushenko, Zelensky's energy minister, wanted Mr. Kudryavtsy, the company's former chief executive, to hire people with limited experience in the energy business. I hear this guy, Hunter Biden, he ride train. He ride many train. He be very good in this business.
Yeah.
He started aggressively trying to make me appoint them, said Mr. Kudryavtsy. By late 2021, the Ukrainian government hijacked that board and established a playbook to use with other companies. rather than pick exclusively from the EU shortlist, insisted that one of the seats go to Roman. I thought it said Roman Polanski. Go to Roman Piatkowski, rated too low to make the shortlist. Under Mr. I hear we have much in common. We both like 13-year-old girls. Rated too low to make the shortlist. Under Mr. Kudrytsky's leadership, Ukrenergo made repairs. Western donors gave it $1.7 billion. Yeah, man, you know, they can't afford healthcare for you, can't afford housing, can't afford free public universities. They can afford to send money to disappear into the black hole of notoriously corrupt Ukraine, whose leader had previously been investigated and named for having shady offshore accounts. One foreign member resigned, leaving an even split. Mr. Piatkowski voted to fire Kudrytsky. The two other foreign board members resigned in protest, issuing a statement calling the dismissal politically motivated. Mr. Kudrytsky said the energy ministry had wanted to make it easier for corruption to go unchecked. One of the men he had refused to hire is now under investigation in the Energoatom case. Mr. Hulushenko recently resigned amid the investigation. Mr. Hulushenko pushed a major spending plan at Energoatom. He wanted to buy 2 old Russian-designed nuclear reactors from Bulgaria. Western donors and anti-corruption watchdogs immediately criticized the idea. Tim Stone had planned to order a review of what he called the Franken reactors. Quote, they understood that as soon as they start the activities of the supervisory board, they can lose control, said Oleksiy Movchan, a lawmaker from Zelensky's party who pushed the independent boards. While Energoatom's board remained inactive, a $100 million kickback scheme was underway. Dr. Stone walked away. The whole thing was just a complete rat's nest, he said. When Ukraine finalized the board, it kept Dr. Stone's seat empty. Energoatom was powerless to prevent corruption. 8 people, including Mr. Zelensky's former business partner, face embezzlement, money laundering, and illicit enrichment. The agency has spent at least $1 billion in European money with an incomplete supervisory board or without one at all. Marina Bezrukova said the absence of a board left her vulnerable to pressure. The defense ministry had pushed her to approve dubious contracts, including mortar shells that failed to fire. Your tax money, folks. There you go. On the eve of the first board meeting, the defense ministry rewrote the procurement body's charter. When a foreign expert resigned, the administration fired the 2 government members, leaving the board without a quorum. Supervisory boards are just window dressing, she said. They're not real. You notice how newspapers like the New York Times, like the Guardian, have been telling us, Washington Post, have been telling us for years how Zelensky has gotten the corruption under control with these supervisory boards. The Europeans are creating a permissive environment for this kind of backsliding, said Tyson Barker, a former State Department official overseeing Ukraine's economic recovery. The European Commission warned of persistent political interference. Mr. Zelensky has tried to distance himself. His prime minister denied any government interference. She blamed the board and she fired all its members. Cheese it, boys. The jig is up. You know, it's also interesting. The New York Times says they were researching this for 4 years. There was nothing that you found in that 4 years that could have been reported out. Like, you didn't have anything in that 4 years that passed enough of the fact checking that you could have warned the public that this was going on. This all just came together now. So you know what this looks like? This looks like the latest case of America throwing one of its puppets overboard. But that's not all. This very week, this is a very rough week for Volodymyr here. This is from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation. They just put out a press release on the U.S. International Court of Justice, the ICJ, their acceptance for hearing of the matter of Ukraine's responsibility for genocide and related crimes. Now, you know, they've been giving us the version of incubator babies in Ukraine is that the Russians are committing genocide there and kidnapping the Ukrainian children. But they made a counterclaim to the court that they only started this war because of genocidal actions on the part of Ukraine, which now the court has agreed to hear. The International Court of Justice has upheld the Russian Federation's position and accepted its counterclaims against Ukraine for hearing under the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. All objections raised by Kyiv regarding the alleged inadmissibility of Russia's counterclaims have been dismissed in their entirety. The Russian Federation submissions have been accepted by the court in full. The ICJ's ruling, rendered on December 5th, marks a logical development following Ukraine's futile attempts to hold Russia accountable for initiating the special military operation. Across Ukraine, a policy of forcibly erasing Russian ethnic identity has been implemented, banning the Russian language and culture, persecuting the Russian-speaking Orthodox Church, glorifying collaborators of the Third Reich, and obliterating the memory of the victory over Nazism. Moscow demanded that Kyiv answer for these atrocities, not only concerning state-sponsored genocide, but also complicity in genocide, incitement to genocide, and failure to take measures to prevent and punish genocide. By reaffirming the legal admissibility of Russia's claims, the ICJ has signaled its readiness to assess the full scope of crimes committed by the Kyiv regime and its accomplices. The West's hope of wielding legal weaponry against Russia have once again been dashed. This weapon is now turned against Kyiv's plaintiffs. A third of the states previously aligned with Ukraine have hastily withdrawn, recognizing the futility and even the risks of continued participation. Other Western nations should likewise cease shielding this criminal neo-Nazi regime and exerting pressure on the ICJ. So this is finally from Jim Ferguson, who puts all of this in context because, hey, all of this was evident before. All of this was quite evident before. Cy Hirsch reported this over 2 years ago, that this money was disappearing into a black hole. Why now? Why now? And why isn't the ICJ getting pressure now? Did you see all the usual lib suspects? Did you see multiple sclerosis now lose their mind about this ICJ ruling? No, they're not even talking about it. That's when they're throwing a puppet overboard. Volodymyr Zelensky, once the media's golden idol, the globalist perfect puppet, and the West's most useful asset, is now being sacrificed. Anti-corruption authorities just raided his own office in Kyiv. His closest allies are fleeing the country. Investigators say money was skimmed from Ukraine's energy sector, while ordinary Ukrainians sat in darkness during Russian strikes. This is no minor scandal. This is the net tightening. The global machine that installed him is now dismantling him because Zelensky has served his purpose. The war didn't go the way NATO promised. Western public support collapsed. The money laundering pipelines are being exposed. Europe is shifting to post-Zelensky planning. A desperate leader engulfed in scandal with billions unaccounted for and foreign intelligence services circling. This is how globalist assets end, not with applause, but with handcuffs, exile, or silence. And by silence, I assume he means silence. Termination with extreme prejudice. This little nugget, this classic from Henry Kissinger: America has no permanent friends or enemies, only interests. To be an enemy of America can be dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. Indeed. Indeed. They're done with him. They're done. There you go. There you go, Volodymyr. Your money's on the dresser. Your money's on the dresser. They used him, and now he's a liability because he's a corrupt clown. He's a TV comedian. He thought he was some war leader walking around with these fucking black turtlenecks and the combat boots. He's a joke. He's a clown. He's a puppet. And now, yeah, they clearly they're not going to defeat Russia, as anybody could have told them. The sanctions against Russia backfired. They're looking to turn down the temperature. This guy's got to go overboard. They need to blame somebody. They need a scapegoat for why see, could have won the war, but he's buying defective munitions with our tax money. We had the best of intentions. If this guy had not been so corrupt, we could have won this war. All right. And then they move in BlackRock and the rest of the goons to profit off of death and misery, as they always do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, these realizations could have been made a few years ago. There was no reason
they knew
why they shouldn't have been. In fact, they were, just not by the people at the New York Times. Right.
Right.
The broadcast media has a little bit of an excuse for not covering this. It must be hard to find an anchor willing to pronounce the word energotom on TV, because if you trip over that word, it could be very dangerous. It's a very dangerous word for a dyslexic to read. Energotom. Even the other one, Ukrainergo. Yeah, you really want to be careful when you say that. Wolf Blitzer has to slow down.
I was feeling the pressure.
Yeah, that's hard. That's a balancing. It's a balancing act. One false slip of the tongue, and you're canceled.
This is why
forever.
we don't cover Ukraine.
Yeah, no, it's too risky.
Look, there's advice I would give to any country with names that are difficult to pronounce for English speakers. Change those names, you'll get more coverage.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's funny because we sometimes think to ourselves when we're going through stories to do, hey, we haven't done Ukraine in a while, and I know there's probably some audience members who wish we would cover it more. And I kind of feel weird about not covering it as much as we do, because it's obviously very important. Like, this is obviously not a minor story. It's a pretty major story. But literally every story just produces the exact same take. Like, I feel like my opinion on this has not changed at all in, 3.5 years now? Like, I've been saying the exact same thing about this war since the day it began, literally, when we did an impromptu Facebook live stream, which is there's no way they could win. This is a ridiculous waste of blood and treasure, and the people of Ukraine are being sacrificed at the altar of NATO and the American empire. Like, I could say this in my sleep. Like, and nothing that has developed has even caused me to expand upon that or deviate from that in any way. So then once again, I'm a broken record. This is why we don't cover this more, because I assume it's boring to hear us say the same exact thing show after show after show every time this comes up. But if I knew how this was going to go, as someone with very limited knowledge, almost zero knowledge, I'm a 9/11 kid. I'm not a Cold War kid. This is like not my bag here. If I knew how this was going to go on the day it started, you're telling me all these people didn't know how it was going to go? If it went according to plan, as you mentioned, the reason they took forever to validate these stories about all the money disappearing is because they wanted to destroy Ukraine so that American corporations can come in and rebuild it for profit.
When you deal with these libs, I mean, I know some libs who are in the news business. I won't say what outlets, but I know some libs like this. No, I mean, mostly they really believe what they're told. Like, the people at the media peddling this garbage, not all of them.
I'm talking about like Boris Johnson. I'm talking about the real actors. I'm not talking about the media.
Sure. But a lot of these day-to-day reporters, they're libs. That's why they have the job, because they don't have an original thought in their head. People who have, it's very hard year after year to pretend not to believe what you believe. So mostly the people who get promoted, who get a byline at the New York Times, they're true believers, man. You tell them Zelensky is defending the values of the West, and those values are great values, and Putin is evil, and they believe it. They just, and then you give them another order. Just like your lib aunt, who one day, multiple sclerosis now, tells her one thing, she believes it. They could tell her the opposite the next week. They're like that. The people who are literally running these news divisions are like that. Not all of them. Going to your point, the real higher ups who hire them, they're the ones who know better. But they specifically hire the kinds of morons who are going to repeat the propaganda they want put out there.
Sure thing. Sure thing. T-Bone, thanks for the $5. Says, notice most comments on all platforms support the Cinnabon racist woman and basically echo her sentiments proudly. Trump said, I don't care, and the herd sees it as a green light to turn the U.S. with a tiered societal system where the privileges and rights will be based on race. Sounds familiar? This is how you get there. Have a great show. Love you, boys, and Jake. Thank you, T-Bone.
Well, actually, what I'm seeing is a lot of the white supremacist crowd found out she had a mixed race kid and got very upset about it.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. They didn't like that.
You always
maybe that's why she's not making $1 million.
Maybe, or maybe they're tapped out. Yeah, no, I mean, the Shiloh Hendricks videos that we did actually got ratioed by those people. This one didn't even come close. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times the comment sections tend to skew negative since people tend on the internet, people tend to not say anything unless they have something negative to say. Right. That's why a ratio is more comments than likes, because the basic assumption, pardon me, is that the comments are going to be mostly negative. The only videos where the comments are almost all positive was the RFK Olivia Nuzzi poetry reading. That we got a lot of comments, but they were pretty much all positive. Let's see, what do we got here? Biding says, Tucker, Fuentes, Ian Carroll, who's a Fed, who's a Fanoik, who's the loudest Medican, who gives a fuck? What happened to the strongest silent type? What happened to the strong silent type? Tony Soprano. Thank you, Abiding. Appreciate that. You people need to understand the Barry Weiss, Erica Kirk, sit down. Everybody grifts different. Grifting isn't linear. There's no timeline on grifting. Clever play on words, Abiding. I like it. Oh, George, thanks for the $50. Thanks for that. Cowbell for Oh George. Another shout out for you on the JD show. Kurt said the DD boys are Jews. They're not for this shit. See, isn't that better? None of that pretentious gentleman bullshit. Nice. Thank you, Oh George. Appreciate that. What was it? Muhammad Mirandi called us gentlemen. Yeah, very insulting. Vienticus Prime says everything's a scam, everything's a lie. If I put the text in the right way, you read it with your eyes. Ha ha, like this. Got it. Impressive. Nice job, Vienticus. All right, let's take we got any super chats? How are we in the super chat, Till?
Not good, believe me, not good.
It's a terrible day.
Me shoots ski. Super sticker. Thank you. And we got a new member.
Oh.
Mike Fox Fivefold. All right. Thank you.
Thanks
you for
very much.
Becoming a member, Mike. And John Olmsted, wild flooding happening in Washington State today. Is there?
Oh, really? I know it rains a lot in Washington State in the winter. Very, very rainy time of year. So hope everything's all right out there. All right.
Dude, I don't know what's going on. Like right when I'm going to Southeast Asia, they had major flooding that killed, I think, like 700 people. That was a couple of weeks ago. And now they're taking shots at each other again on the Thailand-Cambodia border.
Yeah.
I'm gonna accidentally stumble into being a war correspondent.
Yeah, he's gonna be a war reporter. Yeah. How do you like that? Wow.
Watch out, Chris Hedges.
That's right. Watch out, Chris Hedges. That's right. All right. Let's move right on along here, ladies and gentlemen. We got 1875 in the YouTube chat, 462 over on Rumble. Let's smash that like button. Let's get up to 666 by the end of this segment. Can we please? We're at 488. I think we can do it. Certainly got enough people in the chat here. All right, folks. So another development in boat strike gate, double tap gate. Pete Hegseth in the hot seat. Hegseth won't commit to releasing video of second strike on alleged drug boat. We are reviewing it right now. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Saturday refused to say whether the Pentagon would release video of the early September operation that targeted survivors of a strike on an alleged drug smuggling boat in the Caribbean. We're reviewing the process and we'll see, Hegseth said in a Q&A session after addressing a defense forum hosted by the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California. Whatever we were to decide to release, we'd have to be very responsible about reviewing that right now. So here he is punting on whether or not so much punting, but deflecting on whether or not we're going to see this video of the double tap.
will make the American people safer in the process.
So, Mr. Secretary, you will be releasing that full video?
We are reviewing it right now.
Is that a yes or no?
That is, the most important thing to me are the ongoing operations in the Caribbean with our folks that use bespoke capabilities, techniques, procedures in the process. I'm way more interested in protecting that than anything else. So we're reviewing the process, and we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. Hegseth said earlier this week that the second strike was ordered by Navy Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley, head of Special Operations Command, who was leading the September 2nd mission, a claim he reiterated Saturday. On Thursday, congressional lawmakers were shown video of the second strike and briefed on the incident by Bradley and General Dan Kane, chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, in a closed-door session. GOP Senator Tom Cotton, the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and Representative Jim Himes, the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, told reporters after the briefing that Bradley told them that he had not been ordered to leave no survivors. Not terribly surprising, since Hegseth has put his full confidence in Admiral Bradley. I guess Bradley returned the favor by not throwing Hegseth under the bus, knowing that's a two-way street, I suppose. But here is Tom Cotton talking to reporters first about the nobility of the mission and then insisting that Bradley was not ordered to kill everyone.
Thank Admiral Bradley and General Kane for coming to brief about the strikes on September 2nd, which were righteous strikes. These are narco-terrorists who are trafficking drugs that are destined for the United States to kill thousands of Arkansans and millions of Americans.
I was going to say to kill millions of Arkansans and thousands of Americans. Haha. Yeah, it's funny how all of the personal responsibility that they like to preach and shame drug addicts and drug users with goes out the window when they're trying to start a war. Right? If you're addicted to drugs and you're failing, that's your own damn fault. Unless we're looking to start a war with somebody, then it's the Venezuelans' fault. All of a sudden, Americans are not responsible for their actions anymore.
The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were entirely lawful and needful, and they were exactly what we would expect our military commanders to do.
Was there a kill-all order from Secretary Hegseth?
No, both. Admiral Bradley was very clear that he was given no such order, not to give no quarter or to kill them all. He was given an order that, of course, was written down in great detail, as our military always does.
But was there a vocal order as well?
There was no vocal order either.
There you go. He says, nope, no such order. Hegseth on Saturday vehemently denied having issued a kill order on survivors, as was reported by the Post. I love this quote. "You don't walk in and say kill them all. It's just patently ridiculous," he said, adding the reporting was, quote, this is a quote from Pete Hegseth, "meant to create a cartoon of me and the decisions that we make." No, you wouldn't want people making a cartoon out of the decisions that you make now, would you? No, you should not be making a cartoon out of the decisions of Pete Hegseth. Of course, Pete Hegseth famously made a cartoon of his own decisions. Franklin targets narco-terrorists. Kind of an amazing choice of words there. That you would say, hey, you don't want to make a cartoon out of what I'm doing. This isn't a joke. What do you think? This is a children's story? You think we're writing children's books here? You think this is a game? How dare you make a cartoon out of my job? Amazing. The two survivors were attempting to climb back onto the boat before it was struck by the second missile, a source familiar with the matter told CBS News on Wednesday. On Friday, two sources familiar with the video that was shown to lawmakers told CBS News that the two survivors were waving overhead before the second strike killed them. One of the sources said the action could be interpreted as the survivors either calling for help or trying to wave off another strike, or perhaps surrendering, or perhaps saying, hey, what the hell, we're just out here fishing. We don't know. How do we know? They won't release the video. So Donald Trump backed Hegseth up on his non-answer as to whether or not we would ever see this video. So here he is being asked about releasing the video, and he says, no, I never said we were going to release the video.
President, you said that you would have Mr. President, you said you would have no problem with releasing the full video of that strike on September 2nd off the coast of Venezuela. Secretary Hegseth now says,
You said that. I didn't say that. This is
You didn't say
ABC
that.
fake news.
Oh, it's
You said
fake
that you
news.
would have no problem releasing the full video. Okay, well, Secretary Hegseth,
Whatever Hegseth wants to do is okay with me.
he now says it's under review. Are you ordering the secretary to release that full video?
Whatever he decides is okay with me. So
Okay, so he says that they're fake news for saying that he okayed the release of the video, which is of course not true. Here he is just 5 days prior saying whatever they have, we'd certainly release, no problem.
Of that first boat strike on September 2nd, but not the second video. Will you release video of that strike so that the American people can see for themselves what
I don't
happened?
know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release, no problem. You know, we stopped every boat we knock out. We save 25,000 American lives.
That's right.
And
Thank you.
if you look at our numbers, the drugs coming in through sea are down 91%.
We've basically saved like 3 million lives. I'm like the 21st century Oscar Schindler for blowing up these boats. We basically saved about half. We've saved about half of a Holocaust worth of lives by blowing up these boats. Well,
sir, will you be sending strikes against the Sackler compound?
Yeah, right.
No. They're wonderful people. They've donated a lot of money.
They're business people. They're great business people. They make a great product. Great product. If you have a backache, I recommend you look into it. So yeah, here's the before and after video. This stuff writes itself at this point.
Video of that first boat strike on September 2nd, but not the second video. Will you release video of that strike so that the American people can see for themselves what
I
happened?
don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release, no problem.
You said you would have no problem with releasing the full video of that strike on September 2nd off the coast of Venezuela. Secretary Hegseth now says...
You said that. I didn't say that. This is ABC fake news.
Fake news.
Well, this story is not going away. It kind of follows Pete Hegseth wherever he goes. Watch as people protest Pete Hegseth and his wife this morning. Free speech, tweets Ed Krasenstein.
Traitor! Hey, you murderer! You're gonna learn how to do a pull-up in prison! You're gonna learn how to do a pull-up in prison, you traitorous dog! You cowardly, treasonous murderer! Shame on you, you traitor! Shame on you, you coward! Traitor! You shitbag! You can't even do a pull-up, you drunk! Hey, you murderer!
So this is not going away. This is like Russiagate, only real and consequential. It's nice to see the libs animated over a real issue for a change.
Yeah.
Because this has really outraged the libs who, they have a tendency to just take whatever liberal rage bait they are served up on the MSNBC or the MS Now. But no, this is obviously a scandal in service of a regime change war, the very kind of regime change wars that we were supposed to stay out of. That's why a lot of people were hoodwinked into voting for Donald Trump in the first place. But it's pretty obvious that they are figuring out who to throw under the bus. I think, obviously, plan A is to pin it on this Mitch Bradley guy. If that doesn't work, I think Donald Trump is happy to pin it on Pete Hegseth. Even Tom Cotton there says, there was no such order given. Basically, within that is embedded the implication that if the order was given to kill them all, including firing a second strike on surrendering people or survivors or the shipwrecked, as is laid out in whatever the document was that we played on the last show, that we read on the last show, rather. That people are seeming to just go all in on, for now, it wasn't Pete. But you're not seeing really a full-throated defense of the act itself. I think they're biding time, seeing who they can blame this on. And it's karma. It's karma. They had their chance to be rid of Pete Hegseth with the Signalgate, right? That was a situation where they could have just used that as an excuse to get him out of the way and bring in more competent people. But the problem is, it's hard to find competent people when a fish rots from the head down, right? It's just a cabinet of dysfunctional lunatics, and this is just one more symptom of that dysfunction.
Yeah, strong leaders appoint strong people. If you're a weak leader, you're intimidated by strong people. You're afraid they're going to overpower you. You know they're going to be smarter than you. A guy like Lincoln, you have some. What do you have? A helicopter back there?
Yeah, the helicopter. Yeah.
A guy
Can't
like
do anything
Lincoln.
about that.
Yeah, no. They're probably going to be watching you for a while now.
Yeah.
A guy like Lincoln could have a team of rivals because he was a strong leader. He was an intelligent guy. He was qualified for the job. He had backbone. Donald Trump is a PDF file clown who managed to con people into electing him, whether you agree with the core MAGA principles or not. Obviously, there are a lot of overlap between right and left populism on getting out of wars and that kind of thing. He didn't deliver any of that. He, if anything, he's amping up these regime change wars. I mean, who voted for Donald Trump, who had war with Venezuela on their bingo card?
Right, exactly.
So who are you going to get who's qualified to be the Secretary of Defense, who's going to agree to do what Trump is having them do? Because it's not like you haven't had defense secretaries who are willing to do a Gulf of Tonkin false flag as a pretext to get America into a war. But that was done with subtlety and subterfuge. These crackpots are not even capable of doing it in a way that would be even remotely plausible. They're just bombing fishermen, calling them drug boats, and setting that up as a pretext to invade a country that is absolutely no threat to us whatsoever. How do you explain to the American people why we have a vital strategic interest in invading Venezuela? You have to come up with something that's a threat to, they're sending drugs.
Right.
Never mind the UN report that says they have absolutely nothing to do with drugs. And now, like clockwork, you're starting to get mainstream corporate media amplifying that narrative, claiming that there's Hezbollah involved in
That's
Venezuela.
amazing. That's just right out of the fall of 2002 playbook. Saddam Hussein harbors Al-Qaeda, right? Oh, Maduro harbors Hezbollah. It's it's so insulting. I saw you posted on Facebook, Glenn Greenwald tweeted, it's really baffling how people still fall for this, how they still go for this. If you have a secure border, can't you intercept the drugs? Well, at this point, most don't. Right? That's why support for an invasion of Venezuela is in the 20s amongst the overall population. Amongst Republicans, it's in the 30s. They can't even break 40% with their own base. It's obviously laughable. I thought you have a secure border so you could, how do the drugs get in if you have a secure border? How would they get in? Especially when there's protocol already on the books for intercepting drugs and drug boats on their way. The Coast Guard goes out, they apprehend the boats, they arrest them, they have a trial. That's the way that works. You don't just bomb fishermen off the coast of Venezuela. And the other thing that doesn't get a lot of airplay, it seems like, people have already soured on Tulsi to the point where they don't expect anything from her anymore. Her own DNI said that these gangs, these supposed foreign terrorist gangs, do not operate with any organizational capacity whatsoever inside the U.S. And are no threat to the U.S. That was Tulsi Gabbard's DNI earlier this year. I guess nobody has bothered to follow up and ask her if her views have changed. I guess given her Iran flip-flop, they know what the answer is going to be. But they're just not going to be able to manufacture
she
support
does
for
answer.
this.
No, she's answered that. You have to go to her OnlyFans.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. But they're just not going to be able to manufacture support for this. It's pretty obvious. And it's also very obvious, being that Venezuela is the #1 producer of oil worldwide, and that China is trying to establish some sort of economic foothold.
That's
That's very clearly what it's all about. Nobody actually believes this is about Americans or Americans' safety in the way that they did in the run-up to the Iraq War, where George Bush had a 70% support for that war when they launched it. And so the circumstances are completely different here. And part of the reason they're different here is because, ironically, Donald Trump really vanquished the Bush wing of the Republican Party. And the reason he vanquished them was largely because of their perpetual support for these sorts of foreign wars. And now here he is again trying to do the exact same thing in a way that's less plausible than any of the wars that George Bush sold. Far less plausible. Not even close.
Well, Hillary loves this stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
She's very supportive. No, look, this is going to be. I'm going to put on the black pill hat here. So if you're keeping people fat and happy, they'll go along with this kind of shit. That's really what's changed. We covered the crackhead Cinnabon racist the other night, and she's raising far more money than you'd want to see her raise. Nothing like what Shiloh Hendricks raised, because there's nothing in it for them. At the time that the Shiloh Hendricks thing happened, people thought there was something in being part of this movement for them. Now they see tariffs, they see ACA subsidies going away, they see prices exploding. There's nothing in it for them to send $20 to a crackhead racist from a Cinnabon in Wisconsin. So they're not doing it. It's the same with this. Like, if people were fat and happy and they wanted to pull this, is this any less plausible than WMDs in Iraq?
Right.
But when people are eviscerated, they're much more skeptical because they don't have faith in the institutions. The institutions are not taking care of them. So when the institutions try to sell them on these things, all of a sudden they're woke in the real sense of the word. They're aware. They're awake to these shenanigans. They're, give them fill their bellies, man. They're perfectly willing to go back to sleep.
Yep, that is true. That is true, but that doesn't seem to be happening either, which is why this whole movement is really unraveling. All right, we're going to move right on along to the second part of this. All right, folks. So one thing you don't really hear Russ and I talk too much about is workplace culture, because we have no actual workplace, really. I mean, this is our workplace right here. We talk to each other on the phone a few times a day to prep for the shows, and that's about it. But workplace culture is a thing that exists in the real world, and it's apparently a thing at I'm sorry, I almost said the Defense Department, at the War Department. The War
Department, yeah.
And apparently Pete Hegseth is doing a terrific job setting a workplace culture at the Pentagon. Because here is Pete Hegseth's acting chief of staff, Ricky Buria, appears to have taken a page from his boss's book, appearing totally drunk in this interview with Matt Gaetz. So take a look and judge for yourself.
35 are fully mission capable today.
So that's a great question, Matt, and I appreciate you getting after it, because not enough. Not enough. It is the most capable fighter that we have right now.
When it flies.
When it flies, you're right. It is the most capable fighter.
You're right.
What we have right now, and you saw last month in the acquisition speech, is a department and leadership that's willing to get after it, to challenge industry to produce better. There are plenty of surface-to-air missile systems that the Iranians have. We know that.
That's what we said. That's what we said to the vice president when Erica Kirk came to visit. We said, "Get after that, get after that, JD." We all cornered his wife so she wouldn't see what he was doing. But
he said it was in bad taste. We said, no, she's not gonna be on the market for long. She's gonna go fast. You better make your move now.
It's not a good look for a white nationalist to be married to an Indian. So you better start getting on the market.
We know
did they shoot any of them?
No, they didn't, because we were so successful, and that platform, the F-35, is an amazing platform that can go after these systems. It is the most capable platform we have, Matt. And what we're doing right now is we have a plan.
I'll take you one right now. Come on, I got your keys. You wear your seatbelt. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. These are very safe. These are very well-built machines.
80%.
You give me those keys, soldier. Sir, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm your superior.
That is an order. It is an order. Give me the keys. That's an order. It's an order. You're not allowed to disobey orders.
Mission.
You want to go to the brig? Walter Kerr say you're the brig.
Sir, respectfully, you threw up in the bath last time, sir.
Capable race by 2030. The Deputy Secretary of War and Mike Duffy, the Undersecretary for Acquisitions and Sustainment, is meeting with Lockheed Martin almost weekly. Under this administration, under President Trump's administration, they are being held to task. The previous administration, it was a joke.
It was a joke.
You a bunch of fags.
We got the best people here. We got Deputy Chief of Staff Evan Williams. We got Captain Morgan and Under Admiral Don Julio. We got a great staff here. I want to show you around. The last administration, they were a joke. They were a joke. I'm like, what?
With Lockheed Martin
barely speak
almost weekly. Under this administration, under President Trump's administration, they are being held to task. The previous administration, it was a joke.
It was a joke. It was a joke.
It was a joke. You give those guys a roach, they get wasted. They couldn't even finish the day.
Yeah, exactly. Oh boy, so some funny comments. Aaron Matthews says, "Excuse me, sir, but this microphone smells like it's been drinking." Good one. Like this. What seems to be the officer problem? The famous South Park scene. And drinking for the job he wants. Yes. Dress for the job you want. Drink for the job. Drink for the job you want. That is a workplace culture set by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. See, so that's how you know he's a real leader. You know, he's setting the tone, he's setting the example, and he's building a team. He's building a team that follows his example. This is what leadership is. Liberals. Listen up. That's called real leadership. Leadership. Well, what kind of workplace culture did Lloyd Austin instill at the Defense Department? Does anybody know? Nobody knows. Nobody knows anything about Lloyd Austin. Why?
Why?
So there you Why? Who is he? Pete Hegseth, we know who he is. We know what he likes to do in his spare time and not in his spare time, apparently. And that passes down. So good for him. You know, that's leadership with personality. That's how you lead. You need to have a strong personality in order to lead. That's called charisma, right? This is what leadership is, folks.
Yeah, Secretary Jello Shots is really setting a great precedent over there. Meanwhile, I got Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, has inadvertently set off a pajama trend at the airports by telling people they shouldn't wear pajamas to get on planes.
Oh, really?
Now he's telling people with the long wait times they should do pull-ups.
Oh, yeah.
Pull-ups while waiting for the planes.
That was what that video was, right? Of RFK doing pull-ups somewhere. Okay. All right,
it really. I just keep hearing the Animal House theme in my head when I watch these guys. It really is the Animal House administration. So somebody should rework the "Where Are They Now" closing credits of Animal House.
Yeah.
For this administration.
yeah, exactly. Well, that'll be something. For a few years. We have a few years.
I did that for the Bush administration. I should do it for this one.
Yeah, exactly. The music certainly fits them. All right. We'll go to some super chats and some rumble rants here. Furrow Queen says, "Hope you guys got my email. I spent a long time on that project on my day off. Also, the Nordic Times is amazingly informative and neutral. They reported on who actually ran out of characters. I will have to look for your email. I didn't catch it. It must have just slipped by accidentally. We do get a lot of them. But I will look. If you spent a long time on a project, then I will do you the service of trying to find it. So I will, and I will get back to you on the next show, Furrow Queen. Thank you. I am the Owl. Wait, are you suggesting the same government that openly publishes drone footage of their swastika tattoo-bearing soldiers executing and torturing Russian POWs and Donbass civilians might have some integrity issues? Yeah, indeed. Professor Brownnote, hello, Zelensky here. I sent you DD, my wife, for share over Hanukkah for American T-shirt of Russ and used Keaton sweater, okay? Yeah, one of my sweaters has ice cream on it.
If we're going to do that, giving away my old T-shirts for membership, we got to do it soon. For months, I'm not going to have these T-shirts.
Yeah, he's not going to have these T-shirts for a long time. So what are you going to wear over there?
Very lightweight fabrics, from what I understand, of the climate.
All right, so you're going to be in basically Hawaiian shirt.
Linen, yeah.
All right,
that kind of thing.
There you go. You're going to look very healthy and vital.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going for.
Be a good look. All right. Do we have any more super chats over here? Yeah, some came in. Look at that.
Sure we do. Okay. Mike Fox Feifel. Would you consider doing a segment on ballot proposal for ranked choice voting in Michigan? The petition, Fair Vote and Rank Michigan Vote, needs 200,000 more signatures by July 6th to appear on the November 2026 ballot. Yeah, sure. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't we consider it?
Seems like we got some time, right? July is the vote.
Yes. Jim Taleb, super sticker. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
And Michael Ewan, Keaton, try a register booster fan, replace vent.
I don't know what's going on with the vents. I have no idea. I mean, it's always like it doesn't work as well in the bedrooms in the office as it does in the main chamber, but it seems to be working a lot less. Hey, look, I'm a renter. I don't have to worry about that shit. If something doesn't
Yeah.
work, I call them up. They come.
Yeah, you don't fix it. Dude, if I own this apartment,
Yeah.
what I would do, because you got this tiny, narrow kitchen, but the wall for this room is the wall on that kitchen, I would take this wall out.
Yeah.
So you would just have the kitchen and this room would be one space.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do it. I don't own the place. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, no, but that's the joy of renting is that you have a problem, you just call. And I rent in a complex too, so it's even easier for me. I don't have to hassle my landlord to call somebody. Like they have their own maintenance people here. They come in, they do it. It's a pleasure. It's great.
Yeah, well, I can't call the landlord to take down the wall.
No, I can't do.
Michael Castillo gifted one Due Dissidence membership. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate
Yeah,
that
might
very
as well
much.
just finish it off. Steve Jobs. I'm sure Trump told Bradley he'd pardon him. Exactly. It's all quick. You could have a job over at the Trump Tower when I get out of office. We always need maintenance people over there.
Yeah, we could use a bartender at the cantina there at the
you
what's the
go.
taco bowl restaurant they have there? Is
You
that the Trump
you
Grill?
know how to work an ice cream scoop? We got the Trump ice cream parlor there.
Hey, at Hegseth's Pentagon, they're all good bartenders, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
No trouble finding that there.
That's right. All right. We can move right on along.
Okay. AIPAC has been having a hard time lately. They're used to being kind of a third rail in politics. Nobody would criticize AIPAC. Nobody would talk about AIPAC. Now it's to the point that even centrist neoliberals like Moulton are running away from AIPAC. AIPAC has become this Mondo Ice. AIPAC has become so politically toxic that even centrist Democrats are abandoning the group. As support for Israel plummets among U.S. voters, Democrats are distancing themselves from AIPAC, and the Israel lobby group is on the defensive. So one of the ways they've been dealing with this is instead of donating to candidates directly, they've been getting proxies to donate the maximum amount. They've basically been coordinating Zionists to donate on their behalf. But they're also, hey, man, they're pulling out that media magic, that sophisticated propaganda network that has been so effective up until now, and showing you exactly why you should support Israel, because they buy our whole Congress.
AIPAC.
Today, AIPAC.
On Capitol Hill, AIPAC.
AIPAC.
You may have heard our name, but how much do you really know about AIPAC? AIPAC is an American organization that works to strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship. This partnership advances America's interests and democratic values and helps keep Israel safe. Our 5 million members are U.S. citizens, Democrats and Republicans from every part of the country who urge our elected leaders to enact pro-Israel policies. This includes expanding America's defense partnership with Israel, supporting life-saving security assistance,
All right, so that's a pretty good example of how out of touch they have become with the public mood. The idea that they clearly put a lot of thought into this. They use the same triumphant music that they use if you watch the Sunday morning roundtables for, Lockheed Martin to make you cheer on bombing poor people around the world with American weapons. They use that same kind of triumphant music with those kinds of montages of happy Americans and children. Archer Daniels Midland. Hey, what you've heard about GMOs? Ha.
Right.
So, they went for that whole style, but the idea that saying, yes, we buy off politicians on both sides of the aisle might not be the direction they'd want to go in. Did not occur to them. And here's a very good example of how ineffective this kind of thing has become. AIPAC has been exposed. AIPAC playbook of dark money and political coercion doesn't work on new generation, especially Gen Z.
Not good. All the politicians, they have their AIPAC guy that's controlling. Every single congressman has an AIPAC guy. Wake up. Every single one. Wake up, bro. Our government is controlled by Israel and we don't even know, bro. Wake up. Literally. Nobody realizes, bro. You vote for these people, bro. Your vote's not going to anything. You're voting for Israel. No matter what you vote for, you're voting for Israel. You're voting for Wake up. They're trying to divide us. They're trying to divide us. Stand together and stand against this. Republicans hate Democrats and Democrats hate Republicans. It's going to be like that for as long as we know. That's exactly how they want it. That's exactly what they want. Exactly. Unite and wake up. Stay woke, bro. Wake the up, stay woke. Wake up. They're trying to divide us. They're trying to divide us. Stand together and stand against this. Republicans hate Democrats and Democrats hate Republicans. It's going to be like that for as long as we know. That's exactly how they want it. That's exactly what they want. Exactly. Unite and wake up. Stay woke, bro. Wake the
That's right. Keep squeezing that caramel, bitch.
Okay, so the first ad was from October. This video, I think, kind of went viral like late November of these kids. And I got to say, man, we've done some black pilling, so I'll give you some white pilling here. When I was growing up, you would never have seen kids like that with that amount of political awareness. Never. So kids are all right, as the video would have it. So they got together. They said, what? They didn't like being told that we buy the whole Congress? Well, let's tell them about all the good spying products we put into their phone. I mean, consumer products that we put into their phone. So this ad just dropped, and it's pretty horrifying. It shows a piece of Israel is behind our transportation systems, telecommunications, agriculture, environmental tech, emergency response tools, all happening quietly in the background while Americans are busy working. All right, let's take a look. Boys, I think we got it this time. I think they're going to love us now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, they didn't quite get the response they expected. This from James Lee. When I watch this, all I could think about is the fact that Israel has the alleged capability to detonate any of these devices remotely at any given time, should we ever step out of line. Yeah. Nacho business. Definitely not a thinly veiled threat. It's just a friendly reminder, like that golden beeper they gave to Trump. Drogo. AIPAC is trying to convince us it's good that Israeli companies are embedded throughout American critical infrastructure when it's really a massive national security issue. It goes far beyond the Samson option. Yeah, I know these are very dark times and it's very hard to find hope. You've got, you just had an Israeli military commander state straight out the yellow line is the new border. Clearly, that's how they're thinking. That's no surprise, but now they're coming out and saying it openly. But there is only so long they're going to be able to sustain this with the complete collapse in support that they're facing. And it is a collapse in support they have no idea what to do about. If you at all understood the level of disgust for Israel and the influence that Israel has on this country that is spread throughout the majority of the population at this point, you would never release an ad like that. You would understand that that's doing more harm than good. You're better off not saying anything than releasing that ad. That would be like if at the height of the Cold War and the level of antipathy towards Russia that America had at that time, that the average American had at that time, Russia released an ad about how Russian technology is in all your devices. That's how that's striking the average person. That's why the common take was, wow, I'm scared now. I'm scared. This plays to me like a threat. You would only release something like this into a population where people like you or are kind of on the fence about liking you. Otherwise, if people are feeling rightly in this case that Israel is secretly, clandestinely spread throughout the society and controlling all of these different companies and politicians, why on earth would you release an ad showing that Israeli tech is secretly embedded in all of these consumer products? I think for the average person, that ad is terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I think what that ad has in common with the ad from a couple months ago is a sort of cynicism embedded in it, so as to like instill the realization in the viewer that, hey, whether you like it or not, your fate as an American is intertwined with Israel's fate because we're partners, and you have your way of life because of us. So whether you like us or not, you have to understand that the reason you guys live the way you do is because we are the aircraft carrier in the Middle East that are fending off the barbarians who want to overthrow Western civilization, right? I mean, I think that is like the implication underneath a lot of it, which only serves to blackpill people even more, right? Like once public opinion sours on you, then reminding people of that is just reminding them of how illegitimate their own society actually is. Like, I don't think that has the effect that they want it to, because look, Zionists are just very, very cynical people, right? What they like underneath all of this is the idea that it is necessary to have a Western military presence in that part of the world. You only live safely because Israel is there keeping these Eastern countries who are hostile to the West from organizing economically and then militarily and then coming to overthrow the West. That's why this is so often framed by Israel supporters as a clash of civilizations. This is why, you know, Douglas Murray's book, 1 year is war on the West, and then the next year it's democracies and death cults, right? Because that is what they're trying to instill in people, is that it is necessary to support Israel, no matter how you feel about it, or no matter how you feel about us. But we have long passed the tipping point where the political momentum is just going one way the wrong way. For them. And nothing is really going to stop it. This all just feels so irrelevant. It feels so desperate at this point. You know, it doesn't even feel like a real force to be reckoned with. It just seems like a matter of time now before the younger generations who are now red-pilled on this issue have enough numbers to outweigh the older generations who are stuck in an old way of thinking. You know, and even boomers who are offended by that, go fuck yourself. Okay, I don't care. I don't care. And if you're one of the good boomers, I don't include you in that. How hard is that to understand? Okay, but that is the reality. The reality is that young people have woken up to this. The old people who have, congratulations. Most of the old people who haven't, fortunately, your political power is on the wane.
Yeah, well, we got into this with the Hillary Clinton thing. The people who have moved the most on this issue are actually the Hillary people. It's older white Democrats who, in terms of percentage that support Israel, have shifted the most since October 7th, because Gen Z was pretty much already there.
Right.
There wasn't much further for them to go by the time that happened, which, again, that's encouraging. It's not that October 7th woke them up. You don't have this ability to gatekeep the information that you used to. That's why Hillary Clinton keeps going on about TikTok. That's why Barry Weiss keeps going on about the days of Walter Cronkite, because they want the gatekeepers back. This is why Larry Ellison not only bought TikTok, but now they're not taking no for an answer. They're trying to make a hostile bid to take over Warner Brothers. Why do they want Warner Brothers so bad? It's whack-a-mole. They're trying to so completely control the means of communication that no one can express a negative view, because these people are so crazy. They believe the only reason young people have turned on Israel is because they're being brainwashed by Qatar, by deceitful actors. We have to control the narrative so that they know what the right view is going to be. Why else would you care that much about taking over Warner Brothers when you just took over Paramount? They're just trying to control the means of communication. But it's not, I mean, watching that ad, and that is the good news. It is so clearly, completely out of touch with the moment. They just don't know what to do. It's very much in the mold of those Sunday morning roundtable kind of commercials that try to justify horrible things, I think not coincidentally. And just like those ads, it's absurd. I think it plays as absurd to the average person.
Yes, indeed. Indeed it does. All right, folks. Hey, while we're paused here, I want to tell you about John Koa. He's got a new album he's releasing called A to Z, Songs from the Tape Deck, 34 self-performed tracks, originals, and covers built on lyrics. First listens land here. We've premiered a few of the tracks off of this album so far, Just a Little Off the Rails, which is an original song, as well as his Bob Dylan cover of Not Dark Yet from the Time Out of Mind album, and Boy in the Bubble, Paul Simon's track 1, side 1, off of his masterpiece album, Graceland. See the little logo there? A boy in a bubble. Clever. Good stuff from John Koa. We debut those tracks over on Rumble when we switch over, when we have a new one to debut. And so we hope you all take a look at John Koa's music and give it a listen. You can find the links to all of his socials, including Apple Music, Spotify, and his YouTube channel at dudissidents.com/Koa. Please do go and check that out. Okay. Where are we at here? All right, we're going to move right on along. We got some super chats.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We sure do. Mark P. Thickow. Is Russell going to wear Lennon linen over there? I'm going to wear what's comfortable. I suspect my plan is I'm going to kind of go with a minimum and expect to kind of buy what I need there, because it's a little hard for me to predict.
Right.
French Laundry, 500 if you all go on the Matt and Evans show. Who is that?
That would be fun. That's the young guy, the kid the Middle Eastern kid. Who does like a Borat type show. He had Kurt on once. He's great. That kid is really funny.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's good. That would be a trip, but it would be a literal trip because we have to go there in person. I don't know where he's at.
Oh, I see. Burning the land.
Qatar, we'll get in trouble.
Many understand the relationship between U.S. with Israel and agree with it. Their question is if that relationship benefits them as well. Not anymore, man. Not anymore. Any poll that you look at, I mean, there are some, but it's a minority at this point. Burning the land. I am afraid the relationship with Israel would be actually beneficial to empower U.S. while fucking the rest of the world, Americans wouldn't mind much. Well, that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like when people are fat and happy, they don't care that much about these things. You're absolutely right. MS Tizip. Israel has a plan B. It's called the Isaac Accords. Please look into it. You know what she's talking about?
No. I don't know the Isaac Accords. Then there's the Jacob Accords. There's the Ezra Accords.
That's the it's the Lost Crosby, Stills and Nash album.
Yeah, right. yeah, exactly. Yeah. Vienticus Prime says new Ukraine strikes deal to restructure $2.6 billion in growth-linked debts, essential for its war financing. Read more, disclose.tv. Thanks for the link. You know, I got to check out disclose.tv more. I know they have like a Twitter account, but I've never actually been to their website. Do they do articles too? Because that would be a great source to add. Thank you, Vienticus. Washington State is interesting to live in with the sun setting like 10 p.m. in the summer. And this one time I was stuck at home because a thin sheet of ice covered all the hills. Wow. Thank you, Vienticus. EO Shush says the boat strikes are BS. If they cared about fentanyl, they'd bomb boats coming from narco-communist China, whose policies of healthcare, living wage, and affordable housing would kill 50 to 100 million Americans. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, EO Shush. Nocturnal Human says Tom Cotton was dressed like Mr. Rogers in a courtroom. Yeah, he did look like Mr. Rogers, that red sweater. Raven Laz, Zelensky voice. Here, you do a better Zelensky. Go ahead, read that.
Well, Kelly, tell you what, you send me 200-inch flat screen TV, I send you coupon code for Shmuley Lube. That or 100 kilos whitefish. Remember, I am supposed a Jew.
Yeah, here you go. Thank you, Raven Laz. Okay, what do we got here? We'll do one more. No, we'll do the rest after the break. Sorry, realized I did not delete the old ones in time. Okay, folks, this is, I think, a pretty important story. And to tell this, we have to go back in time a little bit to the late spring, early summer, when the big, beautiful bill was being negotiated, and Donald Trump was trying to jam into it a ban on state regulation of AI for the next 10 years. So this was a video More Perfect Union put out in May explaining what they were trying to do at the time.
Here's a scheme Republicans are cooking up to let AI steal your job, jack up your rent, and deny you health care. Tucked away in Trump's big, beautiful bill is a big, beautiful handout for tech companies. It's a ban on states enforcing any law or regulation on artificial intelligence models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems for 10 years. This is obviously worrying because AI technology is rapidly evolving by the day. Never mind by the decade. But this also has real consequences right now. Unraveling AI regulations that have already been passed. Like this law in California that restricts health insurance companies from using AI to deny healthcare. Something Cigna, United, and Humana are all being sued for. The GOP plan would make the law unenforceable. These bills in Virginia and New Jersey, which ban landlords from using AI to inflate rent prices, null and void. This Colorado legislation preventing companies from using algorithms to discriminate against employees and consumers for the color of their skin or disability status, thrown out. Republicans say banning state regulations would allow the federal government to create a more consistent set of rules. Ted Cruz said at a Senate committee meeting that he wanted to create a
regulatory sandbox for AI
to prevent overregulation. It's a weird argument from the party of states' rights, but also clearly strategic. Most states have already passed or proposed some AI regulations. Only around 7 have not. Meanwhile, Congress has been unable to come to any consensus on almost any AI regulation. And when you're a tech robber baron, that's great news. Some experts are skeptical the proposal will succeed, but it's a window into how the GOP plans to thank big tech companies for bending the knee. Sam Altman donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration fund. So did Microsoft, Amazon, Adobe, and Google. RealPage, for their part, just hired lobbyists to push Congress on housing and algorithm issues. And NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang attended a dinner at Mar-a-Lago earlier this year. It cost $1 million per person, which, if you think about it, it's a pretty good deal for a 10-year ban on regulations.
Indeed, but this was met with fierce opposition from enough in the Republican caucus to crush it at the time, including Marjorie Trader Brown, as Donald Trump now calls her. Here it is, back when they were still on good terms, but you could see here the relationship starting to fray a little bit.
That is in the one big beautiful, about a clause that is in the one big beautiful bill. This clause would take away state rights to make laws or regulate AI for 10 years. I think federalism is something that we must always protect, and I warn against the dangers of protecting a tech industry where we have no idea the future of what this industry will hold. AI is rapidly developing. AI has developed quickly over the past few years. Imagine what it will be 1 year from now, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now. Here's a lesson for us all. No matter what political party holds office and is in charge, we should all watch carefully the bills that we pass, and we should be mindful about protecting not only state rights, but the rights of the American people.
Thomas Massey also raised objections over this provision.
Beautiful bill is a provision for artificial intelligence corporations that says no
10 years.
10
years.
For 10 years, no state or locality can regulate them. And then it talks about zoning and routing, which if you know, some of your listeners may have seen this, like locally, some big corporation wants to put a data center in your backyard. Well, that's what Congress is trying to do. They're trying to say that these corporations can override local zoning laws, that the local zoning board should take a back seat and let this big information center show up in your backyard that uses all kinds of water and all kinds of power and puts out all kinds of RF and has, you know.
Oh, yeah, your fucking cousin's going to be walking down the street just fucking, you know, just fucking screaming out Amazon orders, you know? It's going to be.
Well, that's Theo Vaughn. Long story short, they were able to muster enough support within the caucus to eventually shut this down to the point where the Senate pulls the AI regulatory ban from the GOP bill after complaints from states. Just about everyone ended up bending the knee. The final vote was 99-1. I forget who the one yay vote was in favor of the regulatory ban. But this was a provision that was too dystopian for enough in the GOP that it was finally pulled. So it was a happy ending. Until now, Donald Trump says he'll sign an executive order blocking state AI regulations despite safety fears. So now the workaround, this brings us up to present day, is for Donald Trump to just use his executive order pen to execute the dystopian part of the big, beautiful bill that was removed through, you know, democratic means for what they're worth anymore. President Donald Trump confirmed on Monday he plans to sign an executive order preempting artificial intelligence regulations at the state level with his more hands-off federal policy. There must be only one rule book if we are going to continue to lead in AI, Trump said in a Truth Social post. So here's the full post. There must be only one rule book if we are going to continue to lead in AI. We are beating all countries at this point in the race, but that won't last long if we are going to have 50 states, many of them bad actors, involved in rules and the approval process. There can be no doubt about this. AI will be destroyed in its infancy. I will be doing a one-rule executive order this week. You can't expect a company to get 50 approvals every time they want to do something. That will never work. The fast-moving AI category is already subject to little oversight as it extends into more areas of life, from personal communications and relationships to healthcare and policing. In the absence of broad federal legislation, some states have passed laws to address potentially risky and harmful uses of AI, such as the creation of misleading deepfakes and algorithmic discrimination in hiring. And it goes beyond that. Obviously, the More Perfect Union video got into some of the things. Landlords have used AI to price fix in terms of what they charge for rent. But leaders in Silicon Valley, such as OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, have argued that navigating a patchwork of state regulations could slow down innovation and affect America's competitiveness in the global AI race, which they say will have implications for the economy and national security. As the More Perfect Union video mentions Sam Altman donated a lot of money to Trump's inaugural fund. And now he's getting his way, even though Congress shut this part of the big, beautiful bill down 6 months ago. The draft order closely mirrored that tech argument, saying it was designed to enhance America's global AI dominance through a minimally burdensome, uniform national policy framework for AI. It directed the U.S. Attorney General to establish an AI litigation task force to challenge state AI laws and preempt them with Trump's more lax federal policy, according to a copy viewed by CNN. Congress killed an earlier attempt by Republicans to prevent states from regulating AI in July. The U.S. Senate voted nearly unanimously to remove a 10-year moratorium on the enforcement of state AI regulations from Trump's sweeping domestic policy bill before it passed. Weeks later, the Trump administration released a Silicon Valley-friendly AI action plan, a package of initiatives and policy recommendations that largely centered on scaling back AI regulation to promote U.S. competitiveness. The idea of blocking states from regulating AI has received broad pushback in recent months amid a string of reports highlighting risks of the technology causing delusions or contributing to self-harm among users or exposing children to sexualized adult material. So Ron DeSantis is pushing back on this a little bit. Stripping states of jurisdiction to regulate AI is a subsidy to big tech and will prevent states from protecting against online censorship of political speech, predatory applications that target children, violations of intellectual property rights, and data center intrusions on power and water resources. The rise of AI is the most significant economic and cultural shift occurring at the moment, denying the people the ability to channel these technologies in a productive way via self-government constitutes federal government overreach and lets technology companies run wild. Not acceptable. Well, no lies detected there. And no surprise that senators and governors are going to want to have some power to represent their people in their states as opposed to being at the mercy of a presidential administration that has been completely captured by big tech. And Ron DeSantis, of course, sworn enemy of big tech, didn't see this coming, I guess, when one after another, Elon Musk, Mark Andreessen, Mark Zuckerberg, Sam Altman, Larry Ellison started lining up at the White House in the lame duck session to curry favor with Donald Trump. But here we are. The idea of blocking states... Oh, sorry, that is a repeat. We're in a fight to determine who will benefit from AI, big tech CEOs or the American people, Sasha Hayworth, executive director of the Tech Oversight Project, said in a statement about the draft order last month. We cannot afford to spend the next decade with big tech in the driver's seat. Well, too late for that. I'm afraid that ship has sailed, steering us toward massive job losses, surveillance pricing algorithms that jack up the cost of living, and data centers that are skyrocketing home energy bills. So the Patriot Voice has it right. I have been saying for months, since day one after the inauguration and announcement of Project Stargate, Trump is the technocratic Trojan horse being used by the powers that be and progenitor of the AI-driven surveillance police state. The AI race is a myth and a smokescreen being used to justify the takeover of humanity via AI systems to replace all of our jobs, surveillance, and robots, etc. With this EO, Trump wants to make sure that there are no guardrails on the development of AI and that it is fully under federal oversight, not given to the 50 individual states as it should be. In other words, the states will have zero power to stop out-of-control, invasive, or harmful uses of AI. That will reside solely with the federal government. He is telling us with this executive order, clear as day, that his full intention is to facilitate up our digital prison and the beast system by way of complete and total federal oversight control, and there isn't a damn thing we can do about it. No lies detected. And just so you know, as this is all happening, Business Insider figured out, hey, you're now more likely to get into Harvard than to find the job. That's right. Easier to get into Harvard University than to find the job. Why? Well, it actually has a lot to do with AI. That's the brutal reality of the current labor market. The no hiring, no firing environment, dubbed the Great Freeze, is driving job seekers up a wall, and the numbers paint an even darker picture, writes Business Insider's Aki Ito. The average job opening last quarter received 242 applications, according to exclusive data from hiring software provider Greenhouse. That means you have a 0.4% chance of getting the average job you apply for. Meanwhile, the acceptance rate for that school near Boston, 3.6%. So what's to blame? Everyone's favorite scapegoat, artificial intelligence, is high on the list. The tech has supercharged job seekers' ability to blast themselves out to any job opportunity, essentially muddying the process for everyone. So that's an interesting thing that you might not have thought of. We all understand that AI is being used to automate certain jobs out of existence, more and more by the week, it seems. But also, AI on the job seekers' point makes it easier for people to just automatically blast out resumes to a million jobs at once, which is, of course, makes it much more competitive and more difficult for the employer on the other side to go through all the resumes. So what happens? Employers and employees end up just staying where they are, and jobs become very, very difficult to find. So if you're out of a job right now, it's extremely difficult to find one. As we also know, we've cut over 1 million jobs this year. Biggest year for job cuts since 2003 in 22 years. So you add all of this together, and it paints a very, very bleak picture, which is why the American people are actually becoming more and more skeptical of AI. About half say AI will worsen people's ability to think creatively and form meaningful relationships. As you can see right there, this is some polling data on AI. The green are the negative viewpoints, and the blue lines are the positive viewpoints. Think it'll make it worse, or it will worsen our capacity to think creatively, to form meaningful relationships, to make difficult decisions, and to solve problems. And if you notice this, people are much more skeptical of AI this year than they were just 4 years ago. 50% of Americans are more concerned than excited about the increased use of AI in daily life. So if you look at the polls, people are not excited about this. If you look at the most recent poll, more concerned than excited is 50%, equally excited and concerned 38%. Only 10% of people are really enthusiastic about the possibilities of AI. That's the Joe Rogan audience. Well, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be cool. That's basically it. 90% of the people are not really down with this. Not really down with this. That's why 99 out of 100 senators voted to strip it from the big, beautiful bill. And what did this administration do? They just jumped over their head. All right, well, we're going to sign an executive order preempting any state regulation of AI. This is a major, major issue moving forward. This is a key challenge of our generation and the future generation. And as people bringing another as a member of a generation bringing other people into the world, this is going to be of extreme consequence these years now. Can we get a handle on AI? Can we just reject a lot of this stuff? I mean, Tucker Carlson had that viral debate with Ben Shapiro years back where he said, yeah, I would ban driverless trucks. You know why I would ban driverless trucks? Because the number one employer, the number one field of employment for high school educated men is transportation. And so once this technology and once these capitalist imperatives get to a point where they're no longer serving humanity, but humanity is serving them, that's when humanity has to assert itself and rein that in. And if we don't do that, it's a very dark future for everyone but the tech oligarchs who have completely bought Donald Trump. And this became very obvious in July of 2024. That is when all the sort of populist character of the MAGA movement was, in my view, just rendered null and void. Once Elon gets his hooks in you, once Andreessen gets their hooks in you, and Zuckerberg and all these people, this is the future they want. And it's a very, very dark future for the vast majority of people because a lot of these skills that people are developing are just not going to be marketable. Like I was saying in the Q&A on Sunday, you know, my kids are really into drawing and like designing things. They're great at it. Much more talented than I ever was at like drawing and building and designing. Those 20 years ago would be very, very marketable skills. In 10 years from now, are they going to be marketable skills? Are you going to need people who can design things, or are you just going to train robots to do it for you? Like, this is a huge question that is going to affect human well-being for generations to come. And the foxes are in the hen house. The foxes are in the hen house. And even when we exercised our democratic powers to filter that out of the bill, what did this fucking scumbag do? Just signed an executive order. Rendered that whole debate null and void, basically.
It's the inevitable outcome of the system that we have. And this is the conversation that a lot of people are not only not ready to have, but are being very, very forcefully and relentlessly propagandized into not having. To be having an argument now about communism versus capitalism is absolutely absurd. You're like 5 conversations behind what's actually happening now. You have no choice but to advocate for some form of socialism or communism. Elon Musk isn't wrong that you have to fight or die. He's just quite intentionally directing you at the wrong enemy. It's not migrants who are going to kill you. It's Elon and his class who are going to kill you because they don't need you anymore. If you needed a healthy working population, why would you take away their health care? Why would you do everything possible to make people sick and to shorten their lifespans? Because you don't need them. Look, even now, as demoralized and as broken as the population is, you'd have a hard time just sending out the National Guard to just start mowing everybody down, right? So you want to get rid of people without having to get that messy about it. What do? You give them bad food and you give them unnecessary medical treatments. Yeah, that's a real thing. The population is grossly over-medicated in ways that I think are contributing overall to a decline in life expectancy rather than an increase in it. You make them depressed. You give them no hope so that you get a lot of deaths of despair. They're trying to fucking kill you. So when you start defending these oligarchs, when you start defending this system, you're cheering for your own demise. If you're a working person, you're calling for the demise of you, your class, your loved ones. It's a war. Warren Buffett said it. He said, yeah, it's a war and my side is winning it. Take it from the horse's mouth. He would know, right? You are in a class war. That is why they spend so much time propagandizing you into being mad at Somalis or layabouts or anything else they can get you angry at, because they know how dangerous it would be if working people really woke up and went after their real enemies. Even if you believe in the system as it existed before this technology, that world's never coming back because it doesn't make sense in light of this technology. For the people who have control of this technology right now, the Zuckerbergs, the Musks, the Ellisons, what makes sense is to set up a world where you have a few peasants around who do the things that either they don't want automation to do or that automation can't do as effectively, and you wait on them. It's very hard for people to think outside of their historical moment. But you have to remember this idea of a relatively egalitarian society where working people are entitled to a certain minimum standard of living. That's a very new idea. For most of human history, most of the population were poor, illiterate, servant, peasant, struggling people. That's what they want you to go back to. They want you to go back to that. And they don't need as many of you for that kind of a world. That's the fight you're actually in. It's not a fight with Somalis. These criminals want you dead. If you do not treat this as a fight for your life, you and most of the people that you know and that you love are going to wind up dying at the hand of these people one way or another, directly or indirectly.
Well, the industrial economy was such that it created some upward mobility for workers, even though they were not really participating in the capitalist system as actual capitalist actors, right? Because the robber barons of old were industrial. So the people who, needed the railroads built had to pay people to build the railroads. And yes, there was exploitation and there was unfair practice and all of that existed. But at the end of the day, they needed to get shit built. They needed bodies to actually do the work for them. So that created this brief moment of upward mobility for the masses. But
Right.
now the whole dynamic has changed, where this is no longer an industrial economic system, or at least an industrial paradigm that we're in now. Now this is the information age, right? Now this is the age of technology, and you don't need as many bodies for that. So work is not in demand the way it used to be, and this was the rationale behind, like, Andrew Yang's UBI. Like, there are ways to usher in a future that, and even Elon at one point said, was a sort of Star Trek communism. But the alternative to that is techno feudalism. There's just no way around that. There's no way around that. And this is where I think you look at a situation like this, and you have to see a dynamic like this as an inevitable outgrowth of capitalism, because there's no self-correcting mechanism within it that would prevent people from Sam Altman from accruing enough wealth to essentially buy the government. Right? So that in that sense, crony capitalism is the inevitable outgrowth of capitalism. Right? And the only check on that is popular will. And in this case, popular will was exerted and it was taken out of the bill. But guess what? These oligarchs had enough money to the point where they were able to apply enough pressure anyway, such that the executive imposed his will. And so this is why, when you think about that Tucker and Shapiro conversation, this is the conversation we all have to be having, is how do we just all stand up and say no to this? What if we don't want this technology taking over our lives? What if we just don't want it? What if we just say, yeah, you know what, that might be cool. Like, there may be some applications of that are cool and good, but overall, we're not going to have a way of life if we let this technology just swallow humanity in the way that it is poised to. And the antidote to this is always popular will. That's what it always is, and we just have to stay focused on these things, because, yeah, you're right. I mean, at this point, like, how can you read a story like that and come to the conclusion that if we only get enough illegal immigrants out of America, things are going to be okay again? It's completely detached from reality. It's not even the same conversation that they're having in the halls of power. That's what they say in front of the microphones to get you to think about the wrong thing.
Yeah, that the whole purpose of that is to distract you. I would really recommend, for anyone who hasn't read it, to read Peter Turchin's book End Times, because this is kind of an element of hope. I know we would like to think that revolutions of the past were driven by the workers. They weren't. I mean, Lenin was a lawyer, right? I mean, generally, you get these revolutions when the children of the educated elite classes no longer have positions available to them. Elite overproduction is really his central theory of social revolution. And we're there because who are these people who can't find jobs?
Right.
Is it construction workers, or is it knowledge workers? It's really the children of the elite class who are used to having a pretty smooth road ahead of them, who are being shut out of the job market. And when people like that no longer have a position, they start to turn radical.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what's in the news now because it's new to them. Obviously, the working class jobs had been automated out to a large extent for a while. Yeah, absolutely, and that trend will continue as well, as these people say every time they get a chance to. Well, we're gonna you're gonna train the robots to pick the apples. Yeah, that's what your job is going to be. Not to go pick the apples, to train the robots how to pick the apples. Yeah, there's not going to be any job loss there. No, for sure.
Yeah, I've wanted to get to this story. There was just a story that they had these robots. They did like a 1-year-long pilot program working in an auto factory, and they did fine. Now from what they learned, they're developing the permanent robots. They're going to go work in the car factory.
Yep. Vienticus Prime, the reason the ultra-rich want AI so bad isn't because it's beneficial. It's because it can make a decision at low cost. That's it. Not a good decision, just a decision. Oh, yes, of course. And they factor error into it. This is why, like, they're complete sociopaths. They just don't mind mistakes. They don't mind catastrophic mistakes. It's all about the efficiency. Right, so like they think in terms of mathematics, equations, algorithms, they don't actually weigh the consequences of the mistakes that the systems make. That doesn't factor into it. They're like, well, yeah, there's going to be a certain amount of error. Whatever the consequences of that are, who cares? If it runs faster and stronger and more profitably this way than the other way, then that's the way we are going to go. That is the beginning and end of their thinking. Fuentes Prime, and by the way, that low cost is a perceived loss cost, not an actual one. Let's also consider that it's not AI that's being used, it's fake. It's a randomized response matrix. If it actually had intelligence, well, you can see what they keep having to correct Grok for. Thank you. All right, let's move right on along here. T-Bone says, I really would like you to please read my 2 Rumble rants before the program started. We did. Would love to hear your take on it. Sorry if you did and I missed it somehow. Thank you. No, we did. We read them. They were in the log. Thank you, T-Bone. Appreciate that. Okay, let's move right on along. You got any super chats there?
Sure. Richard Canuck. Short Oracle stock. It might help slow Ellison's goal of buying the legacy media. All right, this is not financial advice, but it's probably a pretty good bet as long as you're willing to hold on for a little bit in case, things go up and down. But the AI crash looks pretty certain. Richard Pemberton, not to be taken as financial advice. Your coverage of Somalian immigrants is good as far as it goes, but there's more to it than Trump's racism and ICE's Gestapo tactics. This is a huge fraud. Waltz and others are implicated. 80,000 immigrants moved to a single community from war-torn chaos. Lots to report. I mean, I'm sure that's true. Like, I haven't, and by the way, thank you.
Thank you. It's a very generous donation. Appreciate that.
I don't, and uniquely in kind of the left lane, we don't dismiss the idea that they use immigration to suppress wages and to destabilize union movements and labor. I mean, as I think is implicit in the way you phrase that, it's not their fault. But yeah, I mean, I can't speak to particularly what you're talking about, but that wouldn't surprise me if these migrants were being manipulated to cause strife with workers.
Yeah. I did hear something about that.
I remember that back when the cats and the dogs thing came up, right?
Well, no, this is more recent. I mean, Levitt said that somehow, what were there, 86 who were implicated in some benefit scandal, theft or whatever. Right. Oh, they cost us $1 billion. Okay, all right, let's just assume that all checks out and that's all true. When you read a story like the, kneecapping of the AI regulation, like even if it is $1 billion, like this is just, it's such a small conversation compared to the economic war being waged on workers by robots. Like migrants are not the problem, the robots are the problem. Even at $1 billion. Ooh, I mean, you're talking about fucking trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in GDP just being totally washed away. Yeah.
And that story was so clearly being used to just smear an entire community.
Yeah.
So Mark P. Thickout. I wish people could get the Ukraine issue right too. It's strange so many people can think critically about Israel, but not Ukraine. You can always tell what the lib brains are really having hammered into them, because that is one of those issues that if you put that out on social media, libs that you'd never hear from all of a sudden will pop up having a fit about you criticizing Ukraine. I mean, this is the kind of thing, this story about the corruption, these things are hard for them. It's a hard week for the libs.
GDP was not the right statistic. I misspoke there. I forget what statistic I'm thinking of. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember it.
Hong Yan J. Spent 2 years job hunting, 10 job apps per day, man. Yeah, like how do you keep people invested in a system like that?
Yep.
Skyman, an algorithm to maintain your poverty, your own personal digital warden, technocratic city states, and an artificial god of capital. Well said, man.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Let's move right on along.
All right. This is a piece that we call Karp on Crack.
Yes.
Pam Bondi this week announced that she's directed the FBI to assemble a list of Americans who may be considered extremists. What does that mean? The targets include people showing, quote, opposition to law and immigration enforcement, support for mass migration and open borders, radical gender ideology, or views labeled as anti-American, anti-capitalist, and anti-Christian. Well, who are they going to go to who's going to be willing to just light the Constitution on fire that way? Well, this guy. Probably this guy. This crackhead gets paid billions by the government to track and spy on you. Let's take a look. This was at the annual Deal Book Summit that Karp did a few lines on the urinal right before he went on, seemingly. And this is how that went.
When we began talking, annoying each other 10 years ago, hopefully I'm annoying you as much as 10 years ago, or more. When I made a, you know this, every decision Palantir made, FDA's going public, building products, enterprise, large data sets, going to government, acknowledging American superiority, being pro-meritocracy, launching an AI platform, calling into question that AI models would actually be able to perform without orchestration. Every single one, our ontology, every single one of those was viewed as stupid.
I don't know if you've ever done DMT, but if you do enough DMT, Donald Trump comes out of the toilet and starts screaming at you, and then you just you have to do his bidding. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Have you ever experienced that? So yeah, he's definitely whacked out on something. Maybe
he almost poked the guy's eye out.
Who knows? Yeah, I mean that's a tough interview. The guy's just like.
The guy's like in your space, man. Like he's like right there.
I guess I'm just gonna pretend this is all okay. Nothing else I can do. So, friend of the show, Jimmy Dore here. The head of Palantir goes on stage high on drugs, is literally jumping out of his chair like a meth head, and now they have to do damage control. Here's the damage control from Palantir. While cross-country skiing this morning, Dr. Karp decided to launch a new program, the Neurodivergent Fellowship. You see, nobody's a crackhead. Nobody's a weirdo. Everyone's neurodivergent, which makes you a genius.
While baking a pie this morning in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, he does a month-long Amish retreat this time of year. That's what he does.
Yes. If you find yourself relating to him in this video, unable to sit still or thinking faster than you can speak, we encourage you to apply. The final round of interviews will be conducted by Dr. Karp personally. Application link coming soon. Thank you and good luck. Okay, so listen. We make it an autism thing. All right, we make it an what else can we do? We make it an autism thing.
If you don't empathize with him, you're ableist. I'm fairly certain I have.
That makes him a genius.
Yeah. I have pretty severe undiagnosed ADHD. I don't relate to him at all in that. I don't. Do I conduct myself that way on the show? I sit here for 3 hours. Am I jumping at it? Whoa, hey!
No.
Jesus Christ.
That's crack. If he were that autistic, he'd be like that all the time.
Of course.
Like if you were that
the guy was
whacked,
clearly
that's how
out.
you normally behave. No, this is the way. I mean, I've seen them use this a lot with Elon. This is a way that they try to make these psychopaths cuddly and relatable. Oh no, they're not dangerous. They're neurodivergent. They need our care. It's on the one hand, you're saying they're like super geniuses. And on the other hand, you're saying you can't judge them or you're being ableist, right? It's this, they love to deploy this with these fucking freaks. But he wasn't done. He settled down a little bit, although he's definitely hopped up on something through this whole interview. He wants to let you know that he's in solidarity with the working class. I shit you not.
You have 1% of the country in prison. 1% who were in prison and therefore have no rights. Do you know what happens to you when you go to prison? They take you away from your kids. You know who that happens to? Disproportionately working class, disproportionately black and Hispanic men and white men in the underclass.
And that is why, under Attorney General Bondi's new initiative, going after radicals and dissenters, we're going to shift that prison population largely over to middle-class, educated white kids who are talking shit on TikTok. That is who we're going to lock up. We are going to equalize the prison population, sir.
Where are the thousands of articles about them? Nobody cares, and they don't care because it does not either serve the ability, the desire to force me to vote for one party, which basically takes away all my power. That's effectually what it does. If I agree to say this is the worst thing in the world, I essentially have given up my vote. My vote is not for you. My vote is for these two issues. The second reason they don't care is because somehow no one has empathy with any of those people because none of us really deal with those people. At Palantir, we are on the side of working class Americans. We support people who go to the military. We save their lives. We bring them home safer. Our AI actually makes workers more wealthy, more valuable. And the 10 to 15 million people that love me despite what's written, half of them made a lot of money on us. And you know what they're like? They're like people like me who think, you know what? We have to do better. Of course we have to do better. What do you say?
What the fuck? What is he even talking about? Okay, so Palantir, 15 million people love him because they made them rich. All right, I mean, I guess he's talking about their stock going up. 80% of the stocks are owned by 1% of the population, and most of those people are not working class. I don't know who you think you made rich in the working class. But
certainly not 15 million.
Certainly not 15 million. So here's crackhead Karp here on a little less crack, showing how he feels about public discourse and dissent and workers who might whistleblow on his company.
You need a higher purpose, and I also think you often need a lower purpose. Like the higher purpose for me.
What's a lower purpose?
Well, I love the idea of getting a drone and having light fentanyl-laced urine spraying on analysts who tried to screw us. So that's my lower purpose. And, yeah, but, and others. But the higher purpose for me was to get this nation to be the preeminent power in the world. Because whatever faults we have, they're nothing like anyone else's.
Okay. All right. So that's Alex Karp's response to criticism. Friend of working class, self-described Alex Karp, wants to spray fentanyl-laced urine on analysts who say anything negative about the company. Here's another guy from Palantir, Joe Lonsdale. If I'm in charge later, we won't just have a 3 strikes law. We will quickly try and hang men after 3 violent crimes. And yes, we will do it in public to deter others. Our society needs balance. It's time to bring back masculine leadership to protect our most vulnerable. Is Gil Duran. It's amazing how the Palantir guys are all going publicly berserk as the company becomes more embedded in our government. Seems like a massive national security concern. There is no logical reason for them to be acting out like this. You know, I used a clip in the memes I did the other night from Revenge of the Nerds. There's a video essay I keep meaning to get to. You know, that was kind of like a whole genre in the 80s of these movies about like mild nerds using their smarts to get revenge, Weird Science, you know, these kind of movies. We're living in that world, but see, this is the reality. Nerds are full of resentments and grudges. And what you've wound up with by putting people who are full of resentments and grudges at the forefront of society is a bunch of pissed off, nerdy psychopaths who just want to impregnate multiple women, a la Elon Musk, in ways they never would have been able to in their youth when those women were all laughing at them. And they want to get back at the Chads and pretend to be one of them, right?
Exactly.
They're all obsessed with this. Yeah, bring back. Do any of these guys strike you as masculine fellows who are all talking about masculinity and bringing back traditional masculine values? It is revenge of the nerds. And it is not what they presented it as, that, oh, you bring these gentle nerds to the forefront and they're going to do really good things. No, they're going to do fucking horrible things because they hate people.
Exactly.
Because they are nursing horrible resentments from their childhoods that now they want to take out on the rest of society.
Exactly. Well, this is why, Milo told Tucker he was one of only 2 or 3 straight men in conservative media. This is where all of this comes from. It's all about, look, if you look at MAGA as a whole, it's essentially at this point, and I'm sorry to say this to any hangers-on, but it's a movement of losers who seek to brand themselves as winners by attaching themselves to a man who is perceived as a winner, both in, business and politics, in sex, right? It's a movement of beta males who obsess over being presented as alpha male adjacent because Trump is the alpha. Alpha males don't spend the kind of time that these people spend worrying about how alpha they are. That's why they're alpha by definition.
Well, they don't hang around on social media all day.
They don't hang around on social media all day either, right? So this is all about branding. It's about branding yourself a certain way to live vicariously through people who are higher status than yourself.
Well, but this is a case where people who are psychologically completely unsuited to power happen to land into power because they happened to go into industries that wound up being the central magnets for capital in this age.
Well, yeah, these people won the lottery because their unique skill set that they honed by being undesirable antisocial nerds is now so in demand that they get to rule the world. They get to rule the world. And I do blame women for this to a certain extent. They need to lower. This is what happens when you are too selective, right? This is what happens,
Well, that's why Amanda married you, right? Because she didn't want to contribute to that culture.
Well, exactly. It's a very destructive.
That's it. You could have been one of these guys.
Yeah, exactly.
David Icke, hilarious. Selling AI dystopia by claiming to be on your side. Palantir seed funded by the CIA to destroy your freedom and ensure that more working class people end up in jail. Yeah, not only was Palantir seed funded by the CIA, you know who else was? You know what other company's first contract was with the CIA? Oracle, Larry Ellison's company, first contract, CIA. And what is it with all these people being whacked out on drugs, man? Remember this? On the campaign trail, Elon Musk juggled drugs and family drama. Let's take a look at that. He was definitely no less whacked out than Karp in this video. A little less hyper.
It's a very sad case. It's a case we win. We can't lose that case.
Just taking more of those lewds. Got some of the last of the lewds. Paid a premium for them.
I think Colombia wants to get to the bottom of the problem. They've acted very well. And there are other institutions, too, that are acting, but Harvard's trying to be a big shot. And all that happens is every 3 days we find another 100.
Where's Zoran? I miss Zoran.
If you saw that guy on a subway platform, you'd give him a quarter.
This is why he loves Zoran.
Yeah. Now these are supposed to be the people who are your superiors, right? And they love to tell you how superior they are, especially Elon. No one more than Elon. So he retweets Hunter Ash. Poverty does not cause crime. Rather, the same underlying traits, low intelligence and low self-control, cause both poverty and crime. Elon Musk quote tweets that. Correct. Okay. All right. So Jim Stewartson here put together a little montage. In the interest of evaluating Elon Musk's claim that rich white men are more intelligent than the poor's, Here are a few highlights of the Broligarch's alleged genius, featuring Elon Musk, Alex Karp, Peter Thiel, Curtis Yarvin. Midwits at best, every one of them.
Not be imposing all these rules on people, and you know, it's like, you know, yeah.
Wow, that's some genius right there.
Government overreach is not cool.
Government
We began
overreach is
talking,
not cool.
annoying each other 10 years ago.
Meritocracy in
Hopefully, I'm
action.
annoying you as much as
Oh,
10
yeah.
years ago, or more.
I want this guy
when-
rifling
when-
through everyone's
when I
personal
made it, you know
information.
this. Every decision
Absolutely.
Palantir made, every single one, every single Ornithology, every single one of those was viewed as stupid.
A healthcare system which kills thousands of Americans by denying them cover. What would you say to them?
Fucking devil's gonna get you.
It's I don't know what
fucking guy.
What to say.
Yeah, I think we got that.
I still think you should try to make an argument.
And I saw this video. I'm sure it's long since disappeared, but it was really just like kind of burned a hole in me. And it wasn't even a video. It was actually just a sequence of photos. The even photos were sort of brightly colored pictures of just like general Western, you know, decadence, decay, rot, filth. You know, we've all seen these things. And then interspersed between them, formal dress portraits of Nazi officers.
That's Curtis Yarvin, man. That's Curtis Yarvin, the kind of intellectual godfather for all these people. Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance, they love this guy. What's he saying? He's favorably comparing Nazis in formal dress uniforms to images he saw from some shit that he can't remember of Western decay. These are the people who rule you. These are the people who rule you, who want you to believe that the reason that you're not as rich as them is that you're not as smart as them. You're not as good as them. You're not as deserving as them. You have to be the worst person in the world to be the richest person in the world. Well, there's another explanation. No one makes that much money without abusing people and laws. Yeah, maybe that's why. Maybe you're just not evil enough to be that rich. You know, who kind of backs that up? He doesn't use the word evil. He uses the words connected and aggressive. I use the word evil. But here's Tucker talking about, and he would know. He would know. He grew up with a very wealthy stepfather. He's been around rich people all his life, right? Here he is telling you these people are pretty mediocre. They're just aggressive and well-connected.
Bill Ackman is not creative, not particularly intelligent. Bill Ackman is worth $7 billion. So you have to ask, like, how? And it seems to me that Bill Ackman is rich for the same reasons that a lot of other people I know are rich, because he's hyper-aggressive and he's well-connected. And my only point was, if you live in a society that awards the spoils to people on the basis of those two qualities, like the most aggressive, the best connected people get the richest, that's a dysfunctional society. There should be a reward for creativity and decency and hard work, steadfastness, following the rules. Like, you should have to add to the sum total of your society, you'd think. It's not an argument against the free market. It's an argument against whatever we're living through right now. This is really dark and ugly. And if people like Bill Ackman are getting the richest, what has Bill Ackman done? Shorted the market or something? Talk down Herbalife? I mean, I'm not even saying that should be illegal. All I'm saying is, if that's one of the richest guys in your society, you've got a very sick society. I don't think Bill Ackman's like a drooling idiot or anything, but like, when was the last time you heard Bill Ackman say something constructive or creative? Like, never. So it's just bad. And it's not just about Bill Ackman, of course. I mean, he's just a minor player in the life of the world, but he's a kind of metaphor for how off track we've gone. And that doesn't seem like a socialist point. Once again, I'm hardly a socialist, and neither was Charlie Kirk. That seems like a Christian point. Fairness is at the root.
Okay. All right. So now, when you get the oligarch apologists, the self-hating working class people, a lot of times what they'll tell you right after they call you jealous for taking exception to their wealth is that they earned it. Okay. Did they? Did they? How self-made billionaires got their start? Bill Gates. Mom sat on the same board as the CEO of IBM and convinced him to take a risk on her son's new company. Jeff Bezos started Amazon with $300,000 in seed capital from his parents and more from some rich friends. Warren Buffett, the son of a powerful congressman who owned an investment company, and Elon, dad owned an emerald mine in apartheid South Africa. Now, he denies that. The fake emerald mine thing is so annoying. Like, where exactly is this thing anyway? And he got community noted. In a 2014 phone interview with Ask Men, Musk said, "This is going to sound slightly crazy, but my father also had a share in an emerald mine in Zambia."
So there it is, Zambia. That answers your question.
His father, Errol Musk, told Business he lies as often as he breathes. His father, Errol Musk, told Business Insider he purchased a 50% share in the mine for £40,000 after selling a plane for £80,000. So, he knows how it makes him look, so he lies about this emerald mine, but someplace else he admitted it. Pretty typical Elon kind of behavior. And don't forget, Elon Musk didn't invent or create Tesla. He bought it. Elon Musk didn't invent or create SpaceX. He bought it. He didn't invent or create Twitter. He bought it. He's not an inventor. He's not an inventor. He's an investor, as our friend Carsey Blanton sang in one of my favorite songs of hers. So what do you have here? This is really what I'm talking about when I talk about the peasant mind. The idea that these people wouldn't have all the money if they weren't smart, that's basically like a medieval peasant who believes that the aristocracy wouldn't have all the land if they didn't deserve all the land. You had centuries and centuries. Now you might say, well, that's different. These people, they made this on the sweat of their brow. No, they didn't. I just showed you, man. Most of these people, there were exceptions, like Larry Ellison was raised by a single mother without any money. But that's the exception. The rule is that these people inherited money and then used the money and connections they already had to make more money. For centuries, you had inbred people running Europe, and the average peasant, you had peasant rebellions and uprisings. The average peasant thought they were in that position because they deserved it.
Is what 16 generations of medieval inbreeding looks like. The Habsburgs of Spain were one of the most powerful ruling families, and royal intermarriage was especially common in medieval Europe. Out of a total of 11 marriages, 9 of the Habsburgs were incestuous. This inbreeding meant that birth defects were passed down through the generations. During a 184-year period, half of Habsburg children had died before they reached the age of 10. This inbreeding also caused a peculiar phenomenon known as the Habsburg jaw, a facial feature that meant members of the family exhibited an extremely large jawline and an oversized tongue. King Charles II of Spain was so afflicted that he had difficulty with eating and speaking, and he also drooled a lot. Unable to walk until he was 8, Charles couldn't produce an heir and was the last of his dynasty. In order to keep their bloodline pure, the Habsburgs inbreeding had produced a man so ugly that he scared his own wife.
Okay, so you think we've advanced beyond these people?
When we began talking, annoying each other 10 years ago, hopefully I'm annoying you as much as 10 years ago.
This is to rule
or more.
Did you vote for this guy?
When I made a, you know this, every decision
through all the government files and all your personal information? Did you decide you want criminals like that ruling you? Have you really moved beyond the peasants who didn't question why these inbred freaks were governing whole countries that they had no capacity to even grasp or understand, whose people they cared nothing about? That is exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about the peasant mind. The fact that there are so many people, I mean, we all accept it, right? We all accept it. We should be organizing to take these people down, non-violently, of course, but we should be organizing to change the system in a way that people like this cannot be in these positions. The fact that we've been conditioned to watch a guy like this and take it as normal, that this man has more money than you and everybody that you know are ever going to see in 10 lifetimes, that's the peasant mind. That's the same mind that would make people look at people who are so inbred that they can't eat, ruling their country, and not say, what the hell is this? Oh, no, well, they wouldn't have all that if they didn't deserve it. That's what you've been subtly conditioned to believe, that these people have this because they deserve it. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. And that's why they spend so much time brainwashing you into believing things can't be another way. As soon as you start thinking, why does this guy have this? They're in trouble.
Well, you know, it's funny because you look at a guy like Curtis Yarvin, and you would imagine that a guy with this amount of like cultural capital and a guy whose thoughts and musings have been as influential as they are must have a pretty big following. But in fact, he doesn't. His Substack has like 60,000 subs. Our YouTube channel has twice as many followers as his Substack. On X, he's got like 70,000 followers. Like, he's not a particularly popular person who actually has a lot of people subscribing to his theories. But he has amassed tremendous influence by espousing an ideology that validates the status of the oligarchs. Right. So like, you talk about an anti-democratic ideal. Like, the guy's not even that famous, yet he's got JD Vance, quoting him. He's got Elon Musk quoting him. Right. He's not even that famous a person. Like, who is he? Is he a genius?
And what does that tell you? These people are fucking Nazis.
Well, it also shows you, as Tucker said, that they're mediocre. Right. They're mediocre. Like, it's not like he's got hundreds of thousands of people hanging on his every word. No, he espouses an ideology that justifies the existence of the current hierarchy. And so the people atop that hierarchy, of course, going to elevate him. That's why he has as many followers as he has. If JD Vance were running around quoting him, who would know who this guy is? Right. Hardly anybody knows who he is as it is. And he's got the vice president, bringing him up in interview after interview. Right. So that shows you something there, too. And yeah, just listen to these guys talk. I always noticed this even before I was like that political a person. I mean, I was always political, but back when I was like more blue pilled during my tour guide days, the richest clients were always the most boring and the most unfunny. Yeah. It was impossible to make a rich person laugh. I could make the Groupon people laugh and cringe. Yeah, they were not funny. They were not smart. They were not interesting. They were the most mediocre people I ever came across, were the rich people. And the people who bought Groupon
socially off-putting
tickets.
They didn't have to be charming.
Right, they didn't have to be charming. The people who bought the Groupon tickets, they tipped shit, but they were like relatable. They were relatable.
They were like normal people.
That was the trade-off, right? Yeah, they were the normal ones. They were the normal ones, and they were the far more interesting ones to what Tucker was saying. Right. So yeah, no, I mean, it's something that, you can observe even if you are not as politically tuned in as we are. Just ask yourself, or ask the people in your life, hey, when you run into these like wealthy people, are you comfortable around them? Like, meaning, do you relate to them? Can they carry a conversation? Because generally, and there are of course exceptions, generally they can't. Like, generally, they are the most awkward people to be around because they just don't relate to the ordinary experience of being a human being. All right. We got any super chats over there?
Sure.
All right. I'll get the scroll ready while you're reading those.
Mark P. Thickout. Has RFK Jr.'s brainworm escaped and spread to the whole administration? I think they all got there that way. As much as I'd like to blame his brainworm, I don't think that caused it. Jewel X. Could the ballroom
caused by low vitamin A.
Now swallow.
Yeah.
Could the ballroom actually be master data center?
I squeezed your cheeks to release your Hotswood's jaw, so you could take in my river, so you could be my canyon. You could be the canyon to my river.
This is I swallowed a special brainworm where if you drink my cum, the measles vaccine goes out of your bloodstream.
Peter Monahan, Gator Pete, Keaton just sent you a very interesting tip email.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate
it. All right, get on it. P.W. Walker, Karp making his play for Clown of the Year for 2025. He's cutting it close with 3 weeks remaining. Yeah, that should be one of our categories. That's coming up. We gotta figure out our award winners. Larry Coldwater, we live in an age where we are ruled by villains from a James Bond movie. Nah, man, those villains were suave. These are villains from an 80s nerd movie. These are the villains we have. Shai Guevara, LLMs are like the power loom of 18th, 19th century, and containerization of 20th. Under capitalism equals mass unemployment. Under socialism equals free us from bullshit jobs, i.e. we need that socialist revolution. Well, that's the thing, man. That's the thing. Like, if you have a society based around the idea that the goods of the society should be distributed to the population, that population has a much better chance of not like dying in the streets as this technology gets introduced.
Right.
Race car. Say a person is addicted to alcohol, totally understandable, but is also the head of a government defense agency. Is it better for the person to just have a drink at work? That need a drink feeling is tough to resist. You know, myself, I've never really been a drinker. Keaton's a drinker. He likes to belt back a few. I'm not. I
mean, I could belt back a few. I'm not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call myself.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, you're not a drunk.
No, not a drunk. But yeah, I mean, I'm blessed to not have.
Like, you're one of those people who will like appreciate a good whiskey. Like, I'm not one of those.
Oh,
people.
sure, yeah, no, of course. No, I like drinking. I like beer.
Yeah.
I like wine. I like everything except vodka. That's the only thing I really can't drink, and not because it tastes bad. It's just because the vodka hangovers are the worst. Like, the vodka hangovers, those are the days.
Man.
Those are the days I'm glad I don't own a gun, because that would be that is tempting. Yeah, that's terrible stuff. But yeah, though, I mean, I like drinking, but I don't do it nearly as much as I used to, and I never did it a lot. And
no, it's not like I call him up and catch him in
no.
an Hegseth kind of a state or anything.
And I like, to your question, you know, I could understand where you're coming from. I could see that. Like, you don't want a guy who's agitated because he can't have a drink. That could put him in a bad mood.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to just not have an addictive personality. I've never felt like I need a drink. You know, no. Like, if I could go weeks without having one.
No, I mean that I've always known there's got to be a genetic component to alcoholism, because where I grew up, everybody drank to excess as teenagers. Like, by the time I was 16, I could drink a case of beer.
Right.
And one day I just decided I didn't want it. And I never went through like.
Right.
A lot of my friends I grew up with, they had a problem with drinking the rest of their lives.
Yep.
Do one more. Hobo Jesus. Remember, words are now violence. Complain about that bagel and you earned a DS in the town square because you're a word terrorist.
There you go.
I mean, listen, as a New Yorker, I complain about bagels all over the freaking world. So I hope that's not true.
Hey, folks, if you liked what we do, the best way to support the show is to become a member. Those are the links: dudissidents.com/Patreon/Substack/locals. All kinds of perks, including bonus film club live streams, post-game live streams and Q&As. We do a Q&A every week. Members have call-in access. You also get ad-free replays of every live stream emailed directly to you the day after they air. That's a feature that a lot of people are happy to take advantage of. This way, if you miss a show and you can watch it the next day with no ad interruptions, gets emailed straight to your inbox. Starts at just $5 a month. dudissidents.com/Patreon/Substack /locals. You guys are the backbone of the show, of course, and we thank you all very much for your continued support. Furrows Queen, sorry, I missed this one earlier. I was censored. Nordic Times reported who blew up Nord Stream 2. I had plenty of characters. I'm from Yorkshire. I get my money's worth. Also, they've been saying Vlad Z is corrupt for a while. Thank you, Furrows Queen. Vienticus Prime, and by the way, that low cost is a perceived low cost, not an actual one. Thank you for that. Sorry, let me see. Okay, I think I'm up to date now on these, so now these are new ones, right? Okay, Virtuoso. Thanks, Virtuoso. Do you accept AI Jesus as your Lord and Savior, as Joe Rogan gives First Communion kids one by one a microdose of psilocybin mushrooms? Yes, there you go. Thank you, Stoop Sign. Thank you, Virtuoso. Stoop Sign says, don't drink too much or do drugs. I got a certified fatty liver with all sorts of symptoms of fatty liver disease, and shit is getting real. Many of my health problems are treated separately, not holistically. Yeah, no, it is definitely good to watch it with that stuff. Thank you, Stoop Sign. Eric Rousseau, a paranoid tweaker running mass surveillance. That will end well. Yeah, exactly. He wants to replace Twitter with Twacker. How good one, Eric Rousseau. Eric Rousseau's got the wordplay today. Stoop Sign says, I smoked monkey dust for 5 days last month. I was like Karp on day 4, trying to hit on all the girls at a Dunkin' in a Hispanic neighborhood till I was confronted by a crack gang for being out of bounds. Well, glad you're all right. Glad you lived to tell about it. Stoop Sign, they still have lewds down in South Africa.
Oh, do they really?
Interesting. Stoop Sign says, dated a high-functioning autistic woman coming out of a green card marriage. I impressed her as a journalist. She did a level of stalking that would have been a felony, but worked in a refugee. You ran out of characters there, but thank you, Stoop Sign. Virtuoso says King Charles II wouldn't have had zero problems eating pussy. Just a dirty thought. All right, keep it moving. All right, thank you. Thank you for that, Virtuoso. Okay, what do we got here? We think we have some more. Okay, perfect. We'll get to those in due time. Let's go to the soundboard. We are at 2480 in the YouTube chat. And we're at 1190 in the like column. All right, smash that like button even more. Let's see if we can break 25 so we can get to the 25 sound drop today. We're almost there. With a few hundred more likes, we could probably get there. So let's see if we can make that happen. Thanks, of course, everybody, for being here today. All right, let's move right on along here. All right, this is the marquee story of the day, everybody. Nick Fuentes appeared live and uncensored on Piers Morgan Uncensored. And I watched a good deal of this live as it happened. And, most of it was fairly boilerplate, kind of what you would expect. But there were a couple of highlights that we'll show you here. The first one is this. This was kind of the man bites dog part of the interview, because this is where Fuentes kind of throws Piers Morgan a curveball. He kind of flips the script on him a little bit. We've talked about how, a lot of these nationalists have a certain respect for Israel, even if they are anti-Semites, because they have a reverence for the ethno-state. And Nick Fuentes, of course, is very critical of Israel, but he's so comfortable in his own skin. I mean, he even goes as far as to just casually admit in this interview that he does not mind being called a racist, that he is able to admit that while he does not like Israel, he admits essentially that they share his politics. And that really kind of flips the script on Morgan because, well, you'll see. Let's take a look.
They're literally counting down the days until whites are a minority in America. So forgive me if I don't believe them when they talk about compassion. There's a genocide going on right now. It's not against the Jews.
How many Christians are there?
In Gaza, it's against whites.
How many Christians are there in the
whites? World? Yeah, it's a genocide against whites. I guess he means South Africa or just, replacement theory stuff. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Like me,
1 point some billion,
yeah,
2 billion.
How many Jews are there?
15 million.
Okay. So with a straight face, you're going to tell me the world is being overrun by the Jewry, by 15 million people, when there are over 1 billion Christians. There is a genocide of Christians like poor old Nick Fuentes going on at the hands of these 15 million Jews. Really?
See, this attitude is why you're losing. When you say
who am I losing to?
White people,
who am I losing to?
White people.
Who am I losing to?
You're seeing it. Mass migration. You're losing to me. We are losing as a civilization of mass migration. And here's the difference. In Israel, they have my politics. In Israel, they want to maintain a Jewish majority. If they had it their way, it would only be Jewish people. They're fighting like hell so that Jewish people can have as much territory, a Jewish state. They can be proudly Jewish in their own land. Whereas in America, we are being besieged by 10 million illegal immigrants in 4 years. And then whites and Christians, are going to be the minority. And that's true in Canada, Australia, all the countries in Europe. So you could say there's 2 billion people, but what's the proportionality? What is the percentage of people being born that are white? Where's the arrow pointing? Where are we going to be in 50 years? In 50 years, there might be an Israel. In 50 years, there isn't going to be a white Christendom.
You don't believe.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're a liberal Zionist, what do you do with that? Because he just totally flipped the script on you. He just said, he says, look, I mean, Nick Fuentes is famously critical of Israel. He says what they're doing in Gaza is a genocide. And so he opposes them on those grounds. And, you know, he pretty obviously is a critic of what he calls world Jewry. So he's opposed to them on those grounds. But he's so unashamed. He's so comfortable in his own skin. And that comes off in this interview. Like, Piers kept trying to rattle him, and he just couldn't really ever do it. Because the guy, for a guy who has his kind of politics, and for a guy who's been canceled as much as he has, you know, he really has no problem embracing a lot of, you know, the worst things that liberals say about him. And so when he comes and says, hey, you know, Israel really represents the kind of hierarchical views that I share, well, at that point, if you're a Zionist who's demonizing Nick Fuentes as this, you know, Hitler lover, as the Zionists all do, where do you really go with that, right? I mean, that creates a sort of paradox, right? Because what he's saying is that even though I don't like Israel, I respect it insofar as they are basically taking a page out of my book, right? As a nationalist, right? It's a nationalistic, supremacist country, and I'm a nationalistic, supremacist political thinker. That really puts you in a bit of a logic jam, does it not?
Yeah, well, this is an old story. You know, Elijah Muhammad ordered Malcolm X to have a meeting with the Klan. The Klan contacted the Nation of Islam to have a meeting because they felt that the nation's vision at that time of a separate black nation was completely in accord with their views.
Right.
Now Malcolm, according to people who were at that meeting, kind of, you know, just toyed with them and made fun of them. He didn't really want to take the meeting, but he was told to, so he had to. But there are a lot of racists who argue not to genocide everybody else, but argue that, well, they can live in their land. They can live in their land. We can live in our land. What's wrong with that? Right? It's the Tony Soprano view. Hey, I got some black associates. They don't want their sons bringing my daughter home, right?
Right.
This is what a lot of people don't understand about why you have people like Darryl Cooper, for example, who, you know, people say, what do you mean he's anti-Semitic? He supports Israel, but he doesn't support what they're doing, and blah, blah, blah. Very much like Nick Fuentes. Well, that is a certain strain of white supremacist thinking. A lot of these people are enamored of the ethno-nationalist ideal, a place for everyone and everyone in their place. That's their vision of the world. And they consider that a humanitarian vision, right? I don't hate black people. I think they should be in Africa, for example. I don't hate Jews. I think they should be in Israel. That is completely consistent with the vision that in Europe, there shouldn't be all these migrants.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think where the project comes apart is now that you've had the test on the big stage here with Trump's second term. What you're seeing is that, you know, when these nationalists turn authoritarian and bring the war inward to their home countries, it's an argument for freedom of movement, not against freedom of movement, right? Because what the argument that these nationalists are making is, hey, as you said, everyone has their own place, right? But what happens then when you have minority populations embedded within these nationalist countries? They end up persecuted, and if they're persecuted, where do they go? Like, where do they go? Like if you are a third generation, Somali living here, you can't just move somewhere else. You can't just go to Somalia because you are of Somalian heritage, right? You can't just move to France because you have French blood if your grandmother was French, right? If you let's say you're a French person living in Brazil and the Brazilians decide they want you out. Can you just leave? No, there's all kind of bureaucratic bullshit that you have to go through. It's not workable. It's not practical on a grand scale without leading to authoritarian dynamics where you have all over the world minorities who just have no place to live and nowhere to go, right? It's just not really workable. I'm for borders. Like, I think borders work as like organizational tools. Borders help people develop a sort of political project, self-determination, right? Over here, we do things this way, and people within these lines can organize, and they decide how they want to run this plot of land, and then there's a border around this other plot. Like, I'm not saying we get rid of all that, but I'm saying, like, when you see shit like this, it's an argument for freer movement between those places, less bureaucratic hurdles, less nationalism, because we could see kind of where it leads to. Israel, yes, is a perfect example of that. It has been for 70 some odd years. And that's why.
Yeah, that's what we want. We want to be just like Israel.
Exactly. Well, that's the logical conclusion. Like that is where this all logically leads. It's pretty obvious. Fuentes himself says it there. So Cenk Uygur says it is intensely weird that when Fuentes says white Christians should look out for themselves and maybe create an ethno-state, that is looked upon with intense derision. But when Israel says the same thing about a Jewish state, it is met with thunderous applause. Well, yes, and that is why it was very awkward for Piers Morgan, because Piers Morgan has been critical of the Israeli government and their military conquest in Gaza. He's called it a genocide at certain points and then seems to act as if he never said that at other points, whatever. But he is generally supportive of Israel's right to exist as a supremacist Jewish state. You would never say the same thing about a Christian ethno-state if Nick Fuentes says he wants America to be turned into that. Okay, well, if you're going to call him this horrible racist, then what happens when he says, yeah, I'm just modeling my politics off of Israel's politics. Their politics are mine. What do you say to that? That's a checkmate at that point. So here's a defender of Fuentes. All states are ethno-states. Go to Italy to tell them that they can't be Italians anymore, that they have to adapt to foreigners' habits and language. Good luck with that. Work stoppage says Fuentes.
Go tell them that they didn't invent pasta. Oh, wait.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Fuentes is a Nazi twerp, but he's correct in seeing himself reflected in Israel. Zionism comes from the same ideological base as Nazism, ethno-supremacy, and a desire to genocidally cleanse the world of lesser peoples. The IDF and the SS operate on the same logic. Yeah, and he kind of articulates that there. So Ant Doubly, here he is making the case against Jewish nationalism, but for Christian nationalism. He's not shy either. He says Jewish nationalism is immoral naturally because of their religion teachings. Christian nationalism is moral naturally because of their religion's teachings.
That's very Christian.
There you go. That's very Christian. There you go. Putting it pretty simply, right? His cards are on the table. This is the power of Nick Fuentes, is you have a guy here who's just not afraid to put all his cards on the table. He's very comfortable in his own skin. He doesn't feel a need, like a lot of hard right nationalists do, to sort of disguise their politics as something other than what they are. He's very comfortable. He was that whole interview, as we'll see in a minute. Even more. Go ahead.
You also see people get drawn into this, and particularly figures like Douglas Murray really encourage this. The idea of the glories of white civilization. They'll say Western civilization. White culture as it exists in America. I mean, what are you talking about? Corn dogs and the Tasty Freeze? Like, what the fuck are you even talking about? And if you're talking about, usually they'll fall to European high culture, architecture and art. Motherfucker, when was the last time you were in a museum? Could you name a style as Gothic if it fell on you? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? This idea of white culture, what is that? What is that to the average person who supports these views? You wouldn't know the first thing about that, and what you don't understand, is that people who do know the first thing about that wouldn't give you the fucking time of day. They do nothing but condescend to people like you. You think Douglas Murray wants to hang out at your fucking tailgate party? You think he likes people like you? What culture are you talking about exactly? All around the world, and I'm not doing the opposite. I love those things. I do go to museums. I do appreciate architecture, but I appreciate all of it. There are things that you will see in India, that you will see in China, that are every bit as glorious artistically, every bit as much of a cultural achievement as anything that you will see in Europe. Why do you feel a need to have the one and not the other when you don't even really spend a lot of time appreciating the one, even though you like to pretend you do by like retweeting a Gothic cathedral on X?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So our friend Nick Cruz has a funny take on this. I like this. This is a good observation. He says, white people complaining about white genocide will never not be funny to me. Like, bro, you're a self-admitted virgin. You're clearly not doing your part. So that part refers to this piece, which went kind of viral. This is what I mean about Fuentes just being kind of unshakable, right? He's so comfortable as who he is. He gives a remarkable answer to this question. Have you ever had sex?
The many theories about you, I've no idea what the answer is, and you haven't got to answer. But are you actually attracted to women?
I am attracted to women.
You're not gay?
No. But I will say that women are very difficult to be around.
Okay.
So there's that.
And do you think they should have the right to vote?
I do not. No, absolutely not.
They should stay at home?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So basically, you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you? For a young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm the boomer. I know I'm the boomer here, but actually, you're a 27-year-old dinosaur, aren't you? Aren't you, Nick Fuentes? All women.
I am.
All women are annoying. All women grow old. They all get fat. Says the guy. Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Says the guy who's never got laid.
I love that answer. I love that answer. No, absolutely not.
Fat. Says the guy. Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Says the guy.
He says it like, why would I want to do that? Like, he says it with such pride. Like most people, you ask them that question, if they're a virgin and they're 27, they're either going to like give you a non-answer because they're ashamed of the fact that they haven't had sex yet, or they're going to give you a sob story. He's like, no, fuck no. Fuck no. Have I had sex? Hell no. Hell no. What are you, nuts? Why would I want to do that? Like I said, he is a rare breed, man. He is a true original in that sense, that he is just wears his heart totally on his sleeve in that way, and that's why he is a formidable opponent to these people, because they just can't really throw him off, since there's nothing they could there's nothing they could say to him to shame him, right? And so it's kind of fascinating to see the interplay there, that you would just give an answer to that question like that.
All right, I gotta say, watching this as an Xer, I just feel bad for the kids, man. It makes so much sense that the culture threw that up to the forefront of Gen Z. Like the king of the incels, basically. You've got this virginal, pissed off white nationalist winds up being this hugely popular podcaster because you got a lot of virginal, frustrated, bitter young men looking for answers and explanations. Like it's how unhealthy is that generation that someone like Nick Fuentes, who brags about his virginity, is someone that they would elevate like that immediately. I mean, I think any previous generation would have laughed this guy out of the room. Like, he has talent on the mic, but when you look at the things that actually come out of his mouth like that, as far as him not being gay, look, this is where we're not enough tuned into that. At least I'm not, to really know all the nuances. There, I have seen in this conversation people talking about how some of these nationalist conservatives don't have sex with women because they see it as like impure or women are low, so you're lowering yourself by doing it. I get the impression off Fuentes, not that he's gay, that he's asexual. And I mean, look, you're a 27-year-old kind of like aggressive dude who's never had sex with women. I don't see how that happens unless you're kind of asexual. But I think the way that they've been raised would make you asexual.
Of course.
Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like they haven't had a normal social life growing up.
Well, that's what's interesting about him is he is I think, I don't know if he's consciously in the bubble, but he is so in the bubble and has been so successful within his bubble that he was never really incentivized to look outside the bubble, right? Like he seems very happy. He seems very secure. He's obviously successful. He's very talented. And so like, why go through the trouble of like exploring what's out there when I can podcast in my basement and have all this influence and, have this extremely like devout followership? What incentive is there for him to like go out and see about dating a woman if he feels that it's too high maintenance, it's too much hassle, whatever? Like day to day, I'm just happy doing what I do. Why do anything else? Why take a chance on anything else? Like, that's the kind of siloed society we live in now where, you find something that, gets you through the day. Well, you take that to the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day. And as long as you're fulfilled and happy, which he seems, I mean, I don't know the guy, obviously. I don't know anybody who knows the guy. But he doesn't seem like a tortured soul. He seems like a guy who's like doing his thing because this is what he grew up doing. And the society, you're right, has become so alienating for so many people that it doesn't seem like this guy is like tortured by the fact that he's never dated a girl. He just seems to accept it. And it's shocking to see him answer, no, absolutely not. Like he was almost like proud of it. Like, why would I bother myself with that? Why would I waste my time with that? Right, when I'm doing what I love every day. It's certainly a unique answer to that question. I never thought I'd see anybody answer that question in that way.
Well, if you look at the genesis of a lot of fetishes, they're usually tied to childhood or adolescent imprinting on a certain experience that they might have had where their sexuality kind of got imprinted on certain signals based on stimuli that they received. All right, well, if you got a generation that's growing up not having normal socializing with people of the opposite sex or with any sex, really, over time, your brain is going to turn towards a kind of asexuality, right? Like over time, if you don't have that sex, if you don't make that connection, I think you probably pass a certain window where you're like, I don't need that. Like if you get through the height of your hormones in your adolescence and you don't sexually bond with anybody, yeah, over time you're going to become more and more asexual. Like that's going to be the inclination. And in that way, yeah, he's a champion for a generation of alienated boys who didn't have any kind of normal upbringing. That's where I say, I almost feel like Gen Z is the guinea pig that's going to wind up suffering the worst effects of technology. Because if we do manage to come out of this and catch up with the technology, you're seeing this more and more schools are banning the phones in the schools. I think ultimately we're going to move towards what China did, where they made age limits for using social media and limited use, because you can't allow your kids to keep getting brain damaged with this technology. I think eventually those rules are going to come in. There's going to be this lost generation that was the guinea pig generation, where these things were just unregulated and allowed to do tremendous amounts of damage to their natural growth as people. And I think Nick Fuentes is a perfect example of that. And that's why he's embraced by so many people in his demographic. He's speaking for them.
Yep, 100%. 100%. All right. Active Guardian says test for psychopathy, all polls and CEOs, etc. Yeah, indeed. Mark Puglisi says, Russ, peasants didn't believe that the nobles deserved their wealth. They didn't have concepts like equality or merit, just a hierarchy.
Divine right of kings, my friend.
Yeah, divine right of kings, exactly. Eric Rousseau says Nick is white nationalist Sheldon Cooper. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Stoop sign, Groypers sound like they're up to no good just by name. I can't. Yes, it is a weird name. All right.
It's a weird name to take when you're not groiping anybody.
Yeah, you're not groiping. Yeah, exactly. All right. We got some super chats.
Sorry, ruled by Bond villains on fucking drugs. Listen, man. Goldfinger got one look at these guys, he'd be like, what a bunch of geeks.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you are a disgrace to the Association of Supervillains. Amadeus, if the collapse of the West would benefit the oligarchy more than the global South, why don't the oligarchs just shut off the power and gas? Because they could. Accelerationism is inevitable. I think they're trying to have that effect on the population slowly. I think it would be too much drama to do it that way. They're trying to get rid of us little by little, cancer by cancer. Amadeus, orphans and whips will get the rich laughing. Yep. Nathan Vasil, adrenochrome is a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
I think even Dr. Thompson never did that much drugs. David Cody Peppers, Jesus is greater than bourbon. Bourbon is greater than everything else. Yeah, there you go, Keaton. And you could have a drink together. Joey, good vodka is about the cleanest liquor you can drink to prevent hangovers.
Yeah,
that's what I've heard. Like, yeah, if you have like really high-end vodka, you don't get those hangovers.
I don't think I ever had it, and I think whatever vodka I've had was mixed with all kinds of other crazy shit. This is when I was young. And then you develop an aversion to it just because you associate it with the hangover.
Yeah.
Like, there was one time I was driving through Pennsylvania, and I got a slice of pizza that was so rancid and awful that I couldn't have pizza for like 3 months because the thought of pizza could literally make me nauseous.
Yeah.
Just it invoked the memory of that taste. Yeah, so that's what happened to me in vodka.
That's what, like when you get really sick drinking and you say you're never going to drink again.
Right,
But then
exactly.
you do.
Yeah, then you do.
Mark P. Thick out. Now I have to go to bed, work in 7 hours. I just wanted to say that you guys are my favorite podcasters. You're one of my lifelines to Saturday night. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you very much. That's kind of you to say.
All right, do one more. Michael Castillo. Gentlemen, they filmed Revenge of the Nerds at the University of Arizona here in Tucson. Free Palestine. Love the show. Keep it up. Did they? I did not know that.
All right, we made it to 25.
In the year 2525.
Nice work, everybody. All right, we got one more.
One more. All right, so this video went viral this week. It is very sad. This is a woman who just had her chemo cut off by her health insurance company.
A letter from my health insurance company, and the timing. Oh, the timing is just incredible, because what this letter says is you are receiving this explanation of benefits because we will not pay for one of or more of the services that you received. We will not pay. And the thing that they will not pay for is one chemo session that costs $15,000. And I don't know what's going on. I'm hoping it's a mistake, because my doctor confirmed that I got approval from my insurance company before I started the chemo. And I've been on it for a few months now. So I don't know why suddenly one session would not be covered. It's not even the $15,000 that really scares me. What I'm afraid of is that maybe the insurance company suddenly decided that they're not going to cover the treatments anymore, right? So like they just suddenly made that decision and there's nothing I can do about it. The ones in September were like a hot mess. I have tumors all over my spine. But the biggest one was actually the one that caused my fracture, and it came out of the bony part of the vertebra, and actually protruded into the spinal cavity. And like, if this is my spinal cord, right, which is like, it runs all down your back and controls functions from like your brain all the way down to your toes. The tumor had actually gotten to the point where it was touching the spinal cord, like just barely touching it. And if it kept growing and started pushing on the spinal cord, that would have caused immense pain and nerve damage and who knows what. You know, I might have lost the ability to walk, the ability to like control my bladder and bowels, like who knows. And damage to your spinal cord is irreversible. Like there's no fixing that. But thankfully, the December scans showed that the tumor had actually shrunk and retreated just barely, like still in the spinal cavity, but not touching the spinal cord. So there is some space now. We're talking millimeters, like literally millimeters between me being able to like walk and live relatively normally and being paralyzed, I don't know. And honestly, this letter feels like a threat. It feels like my life is being threatened, and saying we will not pay for your life-saving treatment feels like a threat on my life. And I feel like in this country, we have a right to self-defense when someone is threatening your life.
Okay. Margaret Kimberly, why Luigi has a following. Yeah, you'll get these hysterical headlines from the Wall Street Journal and the Free Press about how sick people are. Well, no, they're not. No, they're not. And Luigi didn't do nothing, by the way. Falsely accused man. Our friend Jimmy Dore here responded to this. Health insurance is a scam. 100 million Americans have medical debt. Health insurance adds zero value to your health care. A 55-year-old couple in California earning $120,000 a year pays $38,000 a year before copays to an insurance company that adds zero value to their health care. After paying $38,000, the insurance company then routinely denies you treatment and refuses to cover your doctor-prescribed procedures. This is not a healthcare system. It's an extortion racket. Eliminating the insurance parasites and switching to Medicare for All would save them $20,000 a year after the increase in taxes to pay for Medicare for All. 68% of Americans are for Medicare for All, yet Congress has never, ever debated it, let alone voted on implementing it, because the health insurance parasites have bribed our politicians to do their bidding at the expense of the citizens. Yes, exactly. Here's another video that's going viral, and this was shared out by Wall Street Apes, which tends to lean kind of MAGA, which tells you you are losing everybody at this point on this system.
Got a little letter in the mail today from our insurance company. Our insurance company is Cigna Healthcare. So Cigna, I hope you have a TikTok because I'm about to blast the shit out of you. Step number 1, our deductible is almost $10,000 a year. Okay, that's not your fault. Well, it is your fault because you just run a fucking scam. Step number 2, my son is battling cancer. Childhood cancer, was diagnosed last year at the age of 9. We have to drive 3.5 hours to the closest children's hospital, okay? It's phenomenal. The best hospital we have ever been to. The oncologist team, the oncology team is phenomenal. We love it so much. He has received his whole care there, right? He's in maintenance mode, meaning he's done the hardest part, and now we just have to keep going for the next 5 years. And he's still on chemotherapy. He still goes once a month. Well, you sent me this lovely paper today telling me that Tenet Health they want to charge too much. And so we can't renew our contract with them. So you can find a different hospital in Tucson though. Tucson, that's where the closest in-network hospital is now going to be for you. Oh, by the way, we're going to offer you a community care application that you can fill out. It's only going to take about 55 hours for you to fill out, and that will extend your care if he has ongoing care for 90 days, okay? But that's the best we can do, all right? Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm just a little confused. Back it up. I already pay almost $800 a month, sometimes more, comes out of my husband's paycheck to have your health care insurance, plus our deductible, okay? Plus the deductible that we have to pay every year, $10,000 off the top. And now you're telling me that the team that has been treating my son from the very beginning, that helped find his cancer diagnosis and saved his life, can no longer be his doctor because you guys are so fucking greedy that you don't want to partner with him anymore. So now I have to figure it out. I have to uproot my son, who is already battling cancer, because you guys need a little bit more money. And we say America is the greatest country on earth. We love it so much, don't we?
Now, according to this post, she's 6 to 7 hour drive away from Tucson. So she's going to have to take her son with cancer 6 to 7 hours to get treatment. That's probably not going to be as good as what he's getting. So Brianna responded to this. Any politicians talking about healthcare reform and not Medicare for all at this stage are not to be taken seriously. Well, I'll show you somebody who's not talking about it. Janet Mills. Janet Mills up in Maine. Chuck Schumer's hand-picked challenger to Graham Plattner. What does she say? This is kind of the code for Democrats to not piss off insurance companies and pretend they're going to help you. Whether it's capping the cost of insulin or expanding access to healthcare. Not Medicare for all, expanding access to healthcare. I'm fighting hard to lower healthcare costs for Maine families. You have access to it. You might not be able to afford it, but you have access to it. Now, of course, her opponent, Plattner, is running on Medicare for all. How's that working out for him? Oh, Guys busted fucking a rooster in Cambodia, and he's still blowing her out by 20 points.
Graham Plattner here.
Graham Plattner is leading Janet Mills by 20 points in a new Maine Democratic primary poll for U.S. Senate conducted November 14th, 18th. Recent poll. They've thrown everything at this guy. And look at him. He's blowing her out by 20 points. I'm sure that is one of the reasons. People have gotten wise to this. People are sick of this. Expand access to healthcare. They know what that means. That means nothing changes. From the lever, a majority of Americans now support Medicare for all, even if it ends private insurance and raises taxes. The tipping point is here because the ACA is failing to keep healthcare affordable. New polling shows a 50-point shift in just 6 years. So this poll has been making the rounds. It's from Data for Progress. A majority, 63%, support a Medicare for all system that would eliminate most private insurance plans, replace premiums with higher taxes, guarantee health coverage for everyone, eliminate most out-of-pocket costs like copays and deductibles. Now, they did ask the question a few different ways. Would you support Medicare for all that would cover all Americans, replace most private health insurance plans? Okay, so all likely voters, 65%, Democrats, 78%, Independents, 71%, Republicans, 49%, a plurality, 43% oppose. You know, in the end, man, it's all fun and games until your wife's dying of cancer. It's not so funny anymore. Voters support Medicare for all, even after hearing it would eliminate most private insurance and raise taxes. So if you frame it that way, support drops minimally to 63 from 65. Very little change. This was the real interesting part of this, because they hit them with the arguments from the other side to see what that would do. Supporters of Medicare for all say it would ensure everyone can get the care they need and save families money by eliminating premiums, deductibles, and copays. Opponents of Medicare for all say it would raise taxes and give the money to give the government too much control over the healthcare system. With this in mind, do you support or oppose Medicare for All? That brings it down to 58. Republicans, 43, and that tilts it a little bit. Still a very strong number from Republicans. Framed that way, 51% oppose. So you get a bare majority that oppose if you phrase it that way. So this is all, of course, taking place as they're debating even extending the subsidies on Obamacare. And as they will tend to do, they deflect. When Trump's been asked about this, oh, Obamacare just enriches the insurance companies. Yeah, that is the problem with Obamacare. You're absolutely right. What's their solution? They want to give you health savings accounts that won't even begin to cover the copays. And where's that money from the health savings account going to go? It's going to go to the insurance company.
Of course.
It's just a way of giving you a lower subsidy that maybe you can just not spend on the subsidy, which I would wager a lot of people are going to do, and they're just going to go without health insurance until they get bankrupted by healthcare. This does not exist in any other country on earth. I was talking about this because travel medicine is really not covered. I don't know how it is in other countries. A vaccine for Japanese encephalitis here would be $1,200. In Thailand, it's $30. It's $30. We're the richest country on earth. Why is that $30 in Thailand? And that carries over to the entire system. This is why you are propagandized and distracted day and night and day and night and day and night. You are being literally murdered by this system. You are being murdered by this government. You are being murdered by these insurance companies that own these politicians, including Democrats. Yeah, just like you have more at this point anti-war people who are Republicans than Democrats. Yeah, you have more Medicare for All advocates that are Democrats. I don't know of any Republicans that support Medicare for All, but it doesn't mean the party as a whole supports that kind of reform. Look what Schumer just did, picking Janet Mills to run against Plattner. Why? Like what was so disqualifying about Plattner? I promise you that's part of it. That's part of it. This entire political system serves wealth. Those insurance companies have a lot of wealth. They have big lobbies, and they spend a lot of money on these political candidates. They'll throw you crumbs. They'll nibble around the edge like Obamacare did. But unless people get organized and take to the street and scare the living shit out of them legally, non-violently, of course, we mean, they're just going to let you die, man. They're just going to let you die. But at this point, it's become so obvious that these facile arguments that we had back in 2016 during the ugly Bernie Hillary primaries, where you had all these libs talking about how we have to be practical and it takes time, and people can't argue that anymore, because now it's coming for the middle class and the upper middle class. They can't afford health insurance anymore. It's finally coming for those people. That's why you've had a total collapse in this debate around what if it raises taxes? People finally realize if you don't do something to get rid of this system, you're going to die.
Well, it doesn't matter if it raises taxes. Look, you as you know, someone who pays a decent amount of taxes now, because we're lucky enough to be doing okay with the show here, right? To actually earn a somewhat middle class existence. I can tell you the amount does not bother me. It's what little I get for it that bothers me, and I think most people understand that, right? I think most people understand that. Hey, it's the bill that comes due from the IRS is not the issue. The issue is that all that money goes towards genocide in Gaza and agitating for World War III in Ukraine, right? That's the problem
that they have money for.
See through, right? And we have reached a tipping point. What the Lever wrote was absolutely right. We've reached all kinds of tipping points. When things get this severe, it becomes obvious. Whether it's a matter of war and peace or foreign policy or just economic inequality, this is the natural trajectory of capitalism, is to create an obscenely wealthy aristocracy and masses of either impoverished people or people who are just straddling the line, to the point where even middle class people can't like buy a house now. You can't buy a house on a middle class income.
Right.
It's just not doable.
No.
So what is
you have
that
to go
gonna...
out to the boonies. You have to go out to the middle of nowhere, which unless you have remote work is not possible.
Right. You can't do it. Right. Exactly. So what is going to happen? Political will is going to change pretty drastically, and that's what's happened around this issue now. And this is what has happened around all sorts of issues. But Medicare for All being one of the leading indicators, because it was already extremely popular. And yeah, people were able to obfuscate and propagandize around the practicality and, well, you want to have private insurance as a backup, blah, 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 right? This whole conversation happened on the Democratic side of the aisle. They were able to psyop people into voting against Medicare for All, both in 2016 and in 2020. And of course, a lot of the Democrats who are now coming out for it, Chris Van Hollen being the latest one, silent about it when Joe Biden was in power. This is
Bernie too.
Bernie too. This is now a winning issue in both a primary and a general, because popular will is a very powerful thing. And this is what people have to understand. And this is why it's important, in all seriousness, not to fall into, well, not to fall into Luigi-like tactics, because all that does is empower a fascist backlash. When after the killing of Brian Thompson, Steve Bannon summoned a lot of the tech overlords, and he told them, Max Blumenthal talked about this a few months ago on Chris Hedges, this is a very teachable story. He summons all of these tech oligarchs, and he says, see how the peasants are getting really rowdy. See what they did to this health insurance CEO? We can protect you from the rowdy mobs once social instability reaches dangerous levels, which it will, right? So what did he do? He used that as a pretext to rally tech oligarchs behind a fascist right-wing agenda, right? So that's the effect of that. That's why that's counterproductive in the end. When you have popular will on your side, you can do a lot organizationally. You don't have to resort to violent tactics that are just going to invite a fascist crackdown, which nullifies all of your political will because you're all dead or in dungeons, right? So people have to understand, like, this year has been a very transformative year in a lot of ways, many of which have been negative, but some of which have been positive, because you're seeing a sort of awakening that you would not have seen had Kamala Harris won. These conversations around Medicare for All would not be happening had she won. That would have just been a continuation of the ACA, which is, I think, has a lot to do with, by the way, this whole conversation around will the subsidies be extended or not. I think that has a lot to do with what's driving these numbers, because people are saying, hey, as long as these insurance companies are empowered in this way, then our healthcare is really dependent on the whims of whoever oversees the system. Whereas the only way to truly safeguard our healthcare is to take these insurance companies out of it altogether, at which point the government must then be the single payer. Because in countries where we see the government is the single payer, even in a country like France, where you have a sort of neoliberal, piece of shit ruling over that country now, notice he can't fuck with their health care without them going out in the streets. Like, that's just an untouchable thing once the government is in control of it. They can't take it away. That's why, mark my words, they are going to pay a tremendous political price for not renewing these subsidies if they don't figure out how to renew these subsidies.
They're insane.
That's
why it's maybe the most politically suicidal thing I've ever seen a political party do.
Exactly, and that's exactly why, because it's one of the ironclad rules of governance is that you can't take an entitlement away that you've given. Once the government gives you something, they can't take it back without paying a tremendous price. So that's all the more reason to just go all the way, get rid of these insurance companies altogether, make this a public investment, because once the public is invested in it, there's political hell to pay for then divesting from it. And I think people now understand that. And this is, how many times have we said this on this show? People who are tuned in the way we are always say these things 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years before the public catches up.
That's the gig.
That's the gig.
Being a Cassandra is the gig.
That's the gig. That's the gig. Exactly. But it is good to see it back in the conversation because it really disappeared. And when did it disappear? It disappeared when the Democrats were in power.
Yep.
Right? Yep. All right. Why don't we take our super chats and our Rumble rants, and then we'll close the lights here.
All right. Andy Gardner, he never had sex. It's not in his destiny, actually.
Good one. You know, I never even knew what happened. So is that a real video? Because I looked that up. Obviously, we couldn't show that on YouTube, even if it was real. But I guess, I don't know. I mean, if he really did suck off Destiny, well, that's the rumor. Yeah, that Fuentes and Destiny had like a sex tape where he's, I would count that as a sexual experience. I mean, I don't think you're really not a virgin if you did that, but if you did, then, it's still not a woman. But yeah, I see what you're saying there.
I find sex to be kind of medical sometimes. I'm also generally frustrated in everything. Yeah. It is kind of medical sometimes. Bonzo Kilborn, D. Murray will definitely like to visit your tailgate.
Yeah.
Also, if my love means anything to you, please keep squeezing that caramel soundtrack.
Keep squeezing that caramel, bitch. So funny.
Richard Pemberton, $1 billion is a lot for Minnesota. Yes, Trump is cruelly attacking all Somalis, but the corruption of our politicians has undermined much needed food and educational programs here. Yeah, sure. It's not the Somalis' fault. Andy Gardner, family of drinkers, Wisconsin, used to AM drink post breakup. Women. My pop went diabetic after pancreatitis. Easier to quit for family. Sober 10 years. Now strictly angel dust, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Andy Gardner, in our house, Ms. Rachel is a saint.
That's
Free
right.
PS.
Hell yeah.
Amadeus, the dollar will be dropped by the rest of the world. We don't have time to wait on the Americans themselves to do something. Yeah, I think you're right, man. Amadeus, fascist backlash is inevitable. They will blame everyone for when the dollar collapses, but they suck at fighting insurgents. And one more from Amadeus. Rock me, Amadeus. 2-year girls in Paraguay were nonviolent. The fascists used blowtorches on them anyway. Is that true?
There's always state violence. Well, yeah. I mean, they sick the. Yeah. I mean, that's They have the Pinkertons go in and beat up the union.
No,
guys.
But Paraguay. I didn't know that about Paraguay.
Yeah, I didn't know about Paraguay. But I'm saying, I mean, that's not. It's not a point that's lost on me for sure.
Daniel Veloduarte. Billionaires are just human piñata full of the solutions to all our problems. Take the mop heads off and get busy, folks. Yep.
All righty.
All
right. That is our show. We got one more Rumble rant here. Jenna Tillis, there is no bottom. Bottom's up and gone. Thank you, Jenna Tillis. Appreciate that. That's our show, everybody. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you all. We will see you back here at noon on Thursday. Until then, thanks to the YouTubers and the Rumblers. Thanks to the mods for keeping the peace in the chat. Do us one last favor. Please do smash that like button on the way out and smash that subscribe button if you are not subscribed on YouTube, or that follow button if you're not following us on Rumble. That helps tremendously. If you're listening on audio, Spotify, Apple, wherever, smash that follow button as well so you get the next episode that the algorithm feeds you. Thanks, everybody, for being here this afternoon. Appreciate you as always. We'll see you Thursday at noon. Until then, be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.